expert Juliette Kayyem on the San Diego mosque shooting and the latest on Iran. Plus, we'll check in with the Ellie Fund before ending this hot day with some ice cream. Why have ice cream flavors gotten so insane? What's your go-to summer flavor and why? Scoop it up next. BPR live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The liberal icon and former Massachusetts Democratic Congressman Barney Frank has died at his home. That's according to a close friend who confirmed his death to member station WBUR in Boston. Frank was 86. He had been receiving hospice care for congestive heart failure. He was the first gay member of Congress to come out publicly, which he did in 1987. Frank explained he had supported efforts to fight all forms of discrimination against the LGBTQ community for years.
Throughout the 70s, I became more and more an active and prominent leader on gay rights, and I was increasingly depressed by the disparity between my advocating the rights for everybody else and then denying myself any chance to participate in it.
He spoke there to NPR's Fresh Air in 2015. To mark Cuban Independence Day, Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued a Spanish-language message to the Cuban people today. NPR's Ada Peralta reports it comes as the U.S. ratchets up pressure against the Cuban government.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Cuba is suffering not because of a U.S. blockade, but because their government has placed the good of a few insiders ahead of the good of the Cuban people. Rubio said the only thing in the way of a better future for Cuba is the people who control their country. If owning your own business and having the right to vote is possible outside Cuba, he said, why is it not possible for you inside Cuba? Rubio spoke as the Justice Department prepared to announce an indictment against former Cuban President Raul Castro. Cuba has said the U.S. is simply trying to justify an illegal and inhumane military intervention against Cuba. Ada Peralta, NPR News, Miami.
Primary election results are coming in. The most closely watched was the seat held by Kentucky Republican Congressman Thomas Massie. He lost to Ed Gilrine, a challenger backed by President Trump. Massie had worked to get the Epstein files released. He also opposed President Trump's military operations. The Republican primary for the U.S. Senate race in Georgia is headed to a runoff. Georgia Public Broadcasting's Sarah Callis reports.
U.S. Representative Mike Collins was the first to qualify for the runoff. He emphasized his conservative record in Congress and positioned himself as a pro-Trump candidate throughout the campaign. Former college football coach Derek Dooley also qualified for the runoff. He marketed himself as a political outsider and has had the backing of popular Georgia Governor Brian Kemp throughout his campaign. Kemp has sometimes been at odds with President Donald Trump and resisted Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in the state. The runoff will be held June 16th. Trump hasn't endorsed a candidate yet. The winner of the runoff will face off against incumbent Democratic U.S. Senator Jon Ossoff in November. For NPR News, I'm Sarah Callis in Atlanta.
You're listening to NPR News.
Good morning with the latest from the GBH newsroom. I'm Craig Lamolt. Massachusetts has a new set of marijuana regulators after years of drama and dysfunction at the state's Cannabis Control Commission. Beacon Hill legislators passed a law last month disbanding the CCC and directing Governor Maura Healey to name 3 new commissioners. Healey made her picks Tuesday, tapping former State Revenue Commissioner Christopher Harding, Economic Development official Xiomara De Lobato, and attorney Anthony Wilson. The governor says it's a fresh start.
I'm excited about the appointments. These are all really qualified folks who will do a great job with the commission, and I look forward to them getting started.
None of the CCC's previous commissioners will return. That includes former chair Shannon O'Brien, who was fired over alleged misconduct and then reinstated by a judge last year. Attorneys for a Babson College student who was deported to Honduras last year have filed a legal brief this week to advance and reopen the case. Annie Lopez Beloza was detained in Boston last November and transported to an ICE holding facility in Texas before being deported to Honduras the next day, which the federal government admitted was a mistake. Her case was thrown out by a federal judge in Massachusetts, with the judge saying the lawsuit should have been filed in Texas, where she was being held. Her attorney, Todd Pomerleau, says this shouldn't warrant dismissal since they had no way of knowing her location.
Because her case is a big deal. It's about primarily the rule of law. Government's not following the rule of law when a court order issues. But beyond that, hiding people from their lawyers, from their families, and then blaming basically blaming them and their lawyers for not knowing which court to file a case in.
Pomelo says she hopes the case sets precedent. This is GBH.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the University at Buffalo, where innovative AI degrees are dedicated to putting students at the forefront of realizing AI for good. More at buffalo.edu/NPR. This is NPR.
You're listening to PPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, is going to be with us May 27th here at the Boston Public Library. Hello, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. Before we get started, you just heard on NPR, if you didn't know before, that Congressman Barney Frank died. And I just wanted to spend a minute talking about that. I mean, in almost everything you'll hear about him today and the days ahead will focus, as they should, on his reform work around the financial services industry with the Dodd-Frank law. Obviously, about how he changed the world in terms of tolerance, at least until a few years ago, when he came out in that interview with the Boston Globe. I think it was in 1987. But I just wanted to say, from personal experience, I was a young legal services lawyer in the South Bronx and was president of the National Legal Services Union when Barney Frank was elected to Congress, 1980, and when Ronald Reagan proposed the abolition of legal services for the poor, civil legal services for the poor, while the champion of that, the one that got the most credit and was well-deserved, was Senator Ted Kennedy, who had obviously been there a while. There was a freshman, Barney Frank, who was not that easy to deal with, I should say. He was a tough one, but he was relentless. And frankly, the only reason that legal services survived was because of the brilliant work of Senator Kennedy and the commitment of the freshman Congressman Barney Frank. And I hope when people talk about his legacy, they talk about how much he did in that regard for poor people in this country in terms of their right to be represented in courts of this country.
Well, just really quickly, I would say that when I was a reporter talking to the congressman on the phone, at least half the time I was talking to him, he hung up on me mid-conversation.
Yeah, he could be tough.
So he could be tough. But, you know, as you say, he came out in the Globe in 87. He took a tremendous amount of grief. And there was a lot of ridicule and a lot of cruel stuff aimed at him. And I think it took a lot of courage, and it wasn't easy. And I think he was an inspiration for many other people.
I think he was. I know he was. In any case, we'll probably talk more about him with friends and colleagues in the days ahead. But for today, remember yesterday when we said Trump had reached new lows or highs of corruption? Well, that was then, and this is now. It's worse since we went off the air yesterday. And we thought to set the proper mood for this discussion, we'd create a little feeling that will help include you in this. You know, we learned late yesterday about an additional aspect of the deal that Trump cut to drop his $10 billion lawsuit against his own Internal Revenue Service. That was the case where he was both the plaintiff and the defendant, essentially. We talked yesterday at some length about the $1.8 billion slush fund, and as you'll hear in a few minutes, where his people, his acting attorney general, his vice president, have not ruled out people who tried to overthrow the government of the United States as potential recipients. Well, now, after Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, was done his testimony in front of the Senate yesterday, the Justice Department announced it is also proclaiming him and his family immune from any Internal Revenue Service tax claims against him and his business empire. And the New York Times says that immunity is potentially worth as much as $100 million to the Trump family at the same time that you're paying $4.56 a gallon for gas. So our number is 877-301-8970 to call or text. What do you make of all this? You're just shrugging your shoulders, as I guess most of us do, around these Trump things. And are you able to get your head around, reconcile the fact on the same day, day two of this grifting disclosure, Donald Trump wins a clean sweep of every Republican primary in which he endorsed a candidate. It's really unbelievable. The numbers are 877-301-8970. I just want to repeat this one time before Marjorie gets involved.
Are we going to repeat the music one more time?
No, we're going to repeat it 100 times. any claim that the Internal Revenue Service may have had against Donald Trump, his family, his business, through yesterday, cannot be the basis for any action against him ever.
Right. Well, they had a big claim against him, the IRS did, because they
explain this.
They allegedly caught him twice cheating on his taxes. We already knew he cheated on his taxes when he was found in the civil case in New York City about the lying about his property values and stuff like that. But apparently, when his casinos in Atlanta were failing, they were going under, and then he built this
Atlantic City,
right? And then he built this condo, this big condo building in Chicago that wasn't selling. He was losing money. He was going bankrupt. He was claiming all these business losses, which are legitimate to claim business losses if indeed he was telling the truth. But you can't claim them 2 years in a row for the same losses. No, and that's what the IRS was looking at, and that investigation was suspended during his first term. But that's where the $100 million came from, that he was going to owe about $100 million in back taxes. So I guess that's out the window. But I mean, it is incredible. People are talking about this. It's like the most corrupt action in the history of the United States of America. I heard our local Congressman Auchincloss was on one of the TV shows this morning. He said this payout is going to go to Trump's friends, families, and felons. So it's like the triple Fs: friends, families, and felons, which I think is just great. Guys like Enrico, whatever his name is, Tarrio, that was sentenced to 22 years in prison for his involvement in January 6th. He could.
Well, not only he could, he expects it. There's a quote from Tarrio saying he's very excited about the decision that Trump has made.
I think the people that have also been gone after by Trump should apply for this money too. See how they make out. James Comey could apply. Adam Schiff could apply. Letitia James, all the people that Trump has gone after. I suspect they will not be getting any of this money.
I want to correct a mistake we made yesterday on the show. We always try to correct mistakes as quickly as possible. Yesterday on the show, when we were talking about the $1.8 billion slush fund, I said that will likely be the most corrupt thing you will hear from government in our lifetime. I was wrong. Today is more corrupt than yesterday with this tax thing. And can we put one more thing in context before we start talking to you at 877-301-8970? We mentioned this in passing yesterday. No, it is. It's totally fair.
It's like
totally
a mob
fair.
operation.
Let me give you a couple of examples. He buys roughly $1 million in Nvidia. Okay, let's get rid of that so I can talk. He buys roughly $1 million in Nvidia stock.
Yeah, that's right.
What does the Commerce Department do a week later? Authorizes the sale of their chips to China.
That's right.
He buys roughly $100,000 of Palantir, is that how you pronounce it, stock?
Yeah.
What happens the exact next day? The next day from
services.
Department of Homeland Security.
That's right.
A $1 billion contract. And allegedly these are in blind trust. He doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't know who his children are. He doesn't know Melania. He doesn't know anything.
Don't forget the chip maker that they were.
I just said it, NVIDIA.
Yeah, but it was a different one.
I know.
They're AMD or something like that.
877-301-8970 is the number.
Here's my favorite, though. We talked about this yesterday, but why not mention it again? He pardoned that Binance guy who pleaded guilty to
Zhao, is that how you pronounce his name?
Guess
I think,
so. Who had pleaded guilty to money laundering crimes, included helping Hamas that attacked Israel, as we all know, in that brutal, horrible terrorist attack on October 7th, helping Iran-linked terrorists and helping child sexual abusers. So, I mean, I guess it knows no bounds. You can help out Hamas. You can help out child sex abusers.
You left something out on the Binance thing. He had a $4.3 billion fine. You know what happened to that fine? Extinguished. He did not have to pay the $4.3 billion fine.
So one last thing. I mentioned this yesterday, but again, when you think about we had Michael Fanone, who was one of the police officers that was almost killed in the January 6th attack. He talked about how
when he was on our show two Fridays ago.
He talked about how some of his fellow police officers kind of didn't really want to talk to him about the whole thing because they were Trump supporters. But you got to think. I mean, if you are a Trump supporter now and you have anything to do with law enforcement, that people that tried to kill police officers are going to get payouts. Now, they've not only been pardoned, but they're going to get paid out. $100,000, $500,000, $1 million. Who knows? That's what they're going to get paid. And we have all sorts of people right here in Massachusetts that we've talked about, that we've had in our show, Jim, who were wrongly accused because of police corruption of crimes, did 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in jail for their crimes before they were let out. Are they getting $500,000 from anybody to make up for their coming out of jail after being wrongly accused, losing their lives because of faulty prosecutions? No.
Can I also preempt what I assume are going to be texts?
What?
And you're entitled, and we prefer you to call than text, from Trump supporters who say this is perfectly legit. There's no proof it's going to go to insurrectionists. I'm sure you heard Senator Van Hollen from Maryland questioning the acting attorney general yesterday, who wouldn't rule it out. He said all Americans are eligible to apply. Here's an exchange between Caitlin Collins from CNN and the Vice President of the United States about his comments, his past comments, about the violent January 6th insurrectionists. This, I think, is from Tuesday. Okay. Things are going well today. Phone lines aren't working.
Anyone who assaulted a police officer on January 6th should go to prison. So why not rule out giving them taxpayer-funded money?
Well, Caitlin, what I said is we're going to look at everything case by case.
But why not rule it out?
Because, Caitlin, there are people who I don't know their individual circumstances, and I don't rule things out categorically when I know nothing about a person's individual circumstances. Let's say a person is accused of doing something that they never actually did, that they got a kangaroo court, that they had a judge who mistreated them. I think that we should look at those things case by case.
You know, I wasn't clear. Let me just say, I'm sorry to interrupt. I wasn't clear. When Caitlin Collins started saying anyone who assaulted police officers go to prison, she was quoting J.D. Vance himself after January 6th, saying that's what happened to insurrectionists who assaulted cops. And that was the basis of the question. I'm sorry, Margaret.
Yeah, well, the point is that he said exactly the same thing. It was going to be a case-by-case look at people before the blanket pardon that Trump issued after he was elected. So I don't think we can believe J.D. Vance because, or unless he's just being naive, it's not going to be a case-by-case kind of thing because it wasn't a case-by-case kind of thing before the blanket pardon came through. So anyway, we're talking about, are you a little concerned about this? I mentioned yesterday that we had this, in Hungary, we had this Orban victory over there. And a lot
Orban lost.
Orban, that's right, Orban lost. And part of the reason, at least the pundits over there say, I'm not a big Hungary expert, but it was because of the rampant corruption of his self-dealing, making money for all members of his family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Putin, somebody was saying in one of these stories today, you know, Putin is known for his corruption, but even Putin kind of does it behind closed doors. Trump just kind of does it in front of everybody and hope he's going to get away with it, which he sort of is. But the corruption of the oligarchy enriching itself was kind of annoying people in Russia who were struggling. That corruption really was the reason Navalny was such a popular guy before Putin, we think, probably had him murdered in prison. So maybe now when you're paying $4.50 for gas and you can't get your health care and you can't afford a house, maybe the self-dealing of the president will get to people, even people that voted for him before. I don't know.
It's not getting there. You know, despite the fact that his popularity is down, I'll say the same thing. Look at Boylston Street. Where are the demonstrations? Where's the public outrage? I'm sure there are tons of tweets. Like, for example, great text from Michelle in Medfield. All the checks and balances are gone. Maria Ressa warned us. Remember, Maria Ressa is that Filipino journalist who won the Nobel Peace Prize. She was with us 4 or 5 months ago and warned exactly that this is the path we are going down. And the timid, the meek reaction to this, and as far as I know, other than from Republicans who have either been defeated in primaries or have decided not to run for re-elections, are you aware of one person criticizing either the slush fund or the immunity deal with the Internal Revenue Service? I haven't heard one. And if I've missed one, please text us and let us know. Let's take some calls. Joshua in Melrose, you are on BPR with Mark Regan and Jim Browdy. Welcome.
Hi, good to be on with you guys.
Thank you. Shoot.
Yeah, so my main comment is about this immunity deal that Trump struck with the IRS. I mean, first of all, it's about as nakedly corrupt as you can get. Second of all, whoever is running for the Democratic nomination for president next has to promise to, one, overturn this deal, and two, prosecute the entire Trump family for everything they've done in the last 10 years, because they can't get away with this, and there's no way we can look at this and say, sure, that happened, let's move on.
Well, there's good news and bad news, I would argue. I'm not a legal expert. I am quite convinced that if Democrats take control of either chamber, they can obviously hold hearings, oversight hearings into all this. the notion of prosecuting anybody for a deal that sadly is legal in the past is probably fairly minimal. I mean, they've cut the. I have to say, I originally thought, totally naively, that the judge who was presiding over the original $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS for leaking Trump's tax information to the New York Times had the ability to not accept the settlement that had been struck between Trump and Trump, essentially. And I was wrong. These are apparently perfectly legal, though corrupt. So at minimum, Joshua, there will be oversight should the Democrats win a House. And maybe you're right. I don't know, but I doubt it. Joshua, thanks for your call.
Well, I think that this is how they managed to get around the judge, because the judge was talking about that very problem, right? You're suing.
You're on both sides of the lawsuit.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's why they withdrew the lawsuit and just went this route, because obviously Todd Blanche, who wants to be the Attorney General, is willing to do whatever the president wants to do. And as you said before, the reason they didn't announce this deal about the IRS while Blanche was testifying was because you would have had to try to explain.
Right. It was released immediately after. By the way, one other thing I should say, you pointed out to me this morning, which I'd forgotten, we'll get back to your calls in a second, that the Treasury Department guy, what was his position who resigned?
Oh, he was like the in-house lawyer, I think. He was a big deal.
He was the general counsel, you're right.
General counsel.
You know what troubles me about that? He resigns. I think everybody takes away a reasonable inference that he resigned. The timing suggests he was disgusted with this deal. Why didn't he say that? Why didn't Anderson Cooper, who we both admire greatly, say on Sunday night when he gave his farewell to 60 Minutes, say what every friend and ally of Anderson Cooper says is the reason he's leaving? Not just because whatever, he's been there 20 years, but because of Barry Weiss and the direction that CBS News. I don't understand the unwillingness to, at least in some respectful fashion, tell the truth about your unhappiness.
I think so. I don't know about Anderson Cooper, but I think maybe the guy Morrissey, his name is. I think they may be afraid of, having people throw Molotov cocktails at their house. They're worried about that kind of thing. Can we play the Godfather music one more time? Remember this classic line from the Godfather? I'll make them an offer they can't refuse.
Was that Marlon Brando or one of the kids?
Somebody said it.
Thank you, John.
I think it was Marlon Brando. I wish I could do an imitation. I can't do an imitation. But I mean, that's what we're. And Trump spent a lot of time dealing with the mob in New York City when he was a contractor. He had to get down with their operations.
He learned a lot.
Remember Michael Cohen, the lawyer that was Fix-It Man?
I do.
New York City. So I think we underestimated the ability of this president to pull fast ones. I wanted to say, though, Jim, that the Senate Majority Leader, that would be John Thune from South Dakota, he very courageously said yesterday that he was, quote, not a big fan, unquote, of the fund for all these things.
Well, also, the Republican senators endorsed Cornyn in Texas. The rug was totally cut out from under them by him, another corrupt character, Ken Paxton, who was endorsed by Trump. And Thune's reaction to that is they're all so scared. I don't know how you live as an adult in such fear of another human being. Let's go to Tammy. By the way, who is as unpopular as any president in our adult lives, just very popular with your base. Let's go to Tammy in Dorchester. Welcome, Tammy. Thanks for calling. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
So I get put my. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's perfect now.
So
Good.
I listened to our illustrious AAG yesterday, and he did say that anyone can apply for the slush fund. So my thinking is they're going to have a website. You're going to apply on the website. And if every American applied,
that's brilliant.
It would crash the website and it would be a total PR disaster and a mess. And so that's my thought.
Well, remember, that's analogous. Do you remember, was it when Trump ran the first time when people who are not very big fans of his were registering for his events? So there were no space for Trump supporters in events. It's variation on a theme. Tammy, excellent idea. Thank you much for your call. 877-301-8970. John in Westford, welcome. We haven't talked to you in a few weeks. Thanks for calling, John.
Hey, thanks. It's been a while.
Hi.
Yeah, there are a lot of videos out there. You can actually see where the side doors were opened up and a lot of people were let in. There's actually, if you watch...
John, I really like you. If you're going to say that January 6th was an inside job, I really can't handle it. Is that what you're trying to do?
I'm not... No, I would never say that.
Okay. By the way, before you continue, I have to say you're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering what...
I'm sorry. Go
Anyways,
ahead.
No, if you watch Tucker Carlson's the full episode when they follow the Q shaman, how they're actually opening doors for him. He's thanking the police for making it possible. I mean, I think everybody should find the full version on YouTube. It's hard to find. Or just videos, like my algorithm is different than yours. I see people just walking in through doors that are being held open by police.
But, John, here's the question. So what? So what if some of that happened? We saw, and I don't think you can deny, and we just talked to a gentleman who had a traumatic brain injury.
He almost died, Michael Fanone.
Yeah.
So what is
John?
So what? Because people have actually had their cases thrown out when they have a video that they were taking of the police holding it. It's no longer trespassing. And 10 years.
John, the vast majority of cases brought by the Justice Department against the insurrectionists resulted in guilty pleas or convictions. You know that.
Absolutely. And I would plead guilty too if I was looking down the barrel of 15 years.
Well, you might plead guilty when you're caught dead to rights.
So what's the over/under here, John? What's the bottom line? Yeah, what's the bottom line? What is the point? That Trump is right?
There are legitimate cases when a woman with a cane has been arrested when she was following the crowd, or when you see people on the side door peacefully waiting.
John, we're running out of time. Let's narrow this. How would you answer the question that Senator Van Hollen asked the acting attorney general and Caitlin Collins asked the vice president? Should people who were proven to have assaulted law enforcement officers be eligible to get $1 from this fund? Yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Fine.
And
okay.
that's the problem. That's the problem,
John. We got to go. Thank you for your call.
Because they are
appreciate
eligible. And again, they're being treated differently than almost anybody in the United States of America who winds up getting accused of a crime.
Let me just also say, juries who, beyond violence against police officers, for the scores and scores of people who are convicted by juries or by judges, what's a more legitimate, credible outcome? That or the conclusion of 5 commissioners to be appointed by Trump's former lawyer, the acting attorney general, who's going to decide who splits up this $1.8 billion. John, we're going to continue this, so we hope you'll call back, and we'll continue talking to you, too.
Okay, coming up after this quick break, Brandeis University President Arthur Levine says he wants to revamp American liberal education. He's got some great ideas about how to do it, and he'll fill us in. Up next, I am Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Before the battles of Lexington and Concord, there was a revolt in Worcester. Before his famous midnight ride, Paul Revere spread ideas with cartoons. And before the Commonwealth, it was just a colony. This year, GBH News is bringing together the people, places, and untold stories that turned Massachusetts from colony to Commonwealth. Available now at gbh.org/America250.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Polar Beverages, family made since 1882. Founded in Worcester, Massachusetts by Dennis Crowley. Offering a range of flavored seltzers, mixers, and dry sodas. Product information and locations at polarbeverages.com. And Newport Mansions, presenting Revolution Reimagined, a new exhibit exploring Newport, Rhode Island's role in the American Revolution and how later generations reshaped the city's collective memory. Opening June 25th. newportmansions.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Mayor Wu joins us for an hour on May 27th. We hope to have a May date for the Governor's Hour with us in the next day or two. Joined now live at the library by Arthur Levine. He's the president of Brandeis University, here to talk about innovation at his school and his new book, From Upheaval to Action, What Works in Changing Higher Ed, about reform of higher education at a time of great change. It's co-authored with Scott Van Pelt. President Levine, it's great to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. So a while ago you wrote the book Great Upheaval, and I guess you went around the country then talking to a lot of people at different colleges, and then you came up with this one, From Upheaval to Action. So tell us about the action we should be taking.
Gladly. Essentially, when we traveled around the country, what we got to see was what colleges were actually doing. And in a lot of ways, it was really disappointing. The fact of the matter is higher education is going through profound changes, far greater than anything since the Industrial Revolution. Demography is changing, and so is technology, and so is the economy, and so are our politics, as you noted, and so is globalization. So what I'm seeing now is that lots of colleges are aware that things are changing, but they're not responding.
You know, one of the things I worry about when I read your book, which I have to say, I sound like I'm surprised. I learned a huge amount. It's not just for people in the industry. It's really good if you care about the future of higher ed. I enter this that innovation is something that most leaders like you care about, except at a time where survival has got to be your number one goal. I don't mean survival in terms of student enrollment and that sort of thing. I mean survival when there's an all-out assault on higher ed in this country. Is that an unfair description of the current mindset of leaders like you?
Well, except innovation's the remedy. What's happened is we now have curricula programs that were created for an industrial America, and they need to radically change if we're going to thrive in the years ahead.
Give us some examples of how they should radically change that are realistic in a time like
Let me
this.
tell you what we did at Brandeis. I asked our faculty, reinvent the liberal arts. And what's been true about the liberal arts throughout history is that they've only been successful and they've had one foot in the library and one foot in the street. There's this great quote from Henry Adams. His great-great-grandfather was president. His grandfather was president. I don't know what his father's story was. Must have been a slouch, but he never got to be president.
Yeah, it didn't reach its potential.
Henry Adams went to Harvard in 1850. And what he said was, I received an 18th century education for a world that was plunging into the 20th century. And that's the problem that all of higher education has today. So I asked the Brandeis faculty, let's reinvent it. Let's take the general education requirements that all students have to take. I said, let's focus on the skills and knowledge that are required to thrive in a global digital knowledge economy. Let's focus on careers. Let's focus on the real world. So a student arrives at Brandeis, they get an academic advisor, they get a career advisor. Well, we also have our experiences. And this isn't only internships. This is job shadowing. This is simulations in classes. This is anything that allows them to apply the liberal arts to the real world. Finally, let's create a second transcript. And we all know the first transcript. Yeah. It lists courses and grades. This one lists the skills that students have mastered. What's an employer looking for in terms of the kinds of jobs that I want to have? We will measure the competencies that you achieve. We will record them and make them available. And finally, I asked the whole college to reorganize. Let's put liberal arts with applications together. So let's take the usual organization, which is something like arts and sciences and professional schools and graduate schools, and let's turn it into things like social science and social policy, economics and business, science and engineering and technology, arts, humanities, and culture. When you change the curriculum that way, what you're essentially doing is preparing students for the world they're going to live in, not now only, but in the years ahead, and giving them those kinds of careers.
We're talking to Arthur Levine, who is the president of Brandeis University. His latest was Scott Van Pelt from Upheaval to Action, what works in changing higher ed. And by the way, the end of it, which I would have added, where are you, in an unusual moment, an aberrational moment, 90% of your faculty voted to endorse this thing, which we hear about strife between academic leaders. You know, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. That's a horrible way to start a question.
It is indeed. I'm putting my fingers in my ears.
I so totally embrace what you're saying, but it's so obvious to me that I can't believe it took you to come. I was in law school about 100 years ago. I went to law school for 3 years. I got a decent education at NYU. The 2 months that I was in a clinical program where I was representing low-income defendants in the New York City courts, which is a variation on your theme, was 10 times more valuable for my career, such as it was as a young legal services lawyer. That was essentially the Levine plan at NYU decades ago. Why? It wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the plan.
So what
but
took
I didn't
so long?
have it 100 years ago.
I know, but I'm serious. What took so long for people like you? Well, you probably realize, but from university leaders to understand, you got to have academics and practical application of what they'll mean in your life. You know.
You know, for so long, people have been doing things, and for a very long time they were praised. And then the world changed behind their backs, and they were forced to change with it. They tried to hold on as long as possible to what existed. And we saw the same thing happen in the film industry, the music industry, the news industry. They kept doing what they'd always done and refused to change.
You know, one of the things I was thinking about, though, is that how broad I think this has to be for kids going to Brandeis or any place else they're going to adopt this strategy. Because lots of times when you're 18, you have no idea what you're going to do. So what do you do? Try to keep it kind of, well, I'm lousy in math and science, so I'll go towards something that's not math. And so how do you do it?
You know, I had a friend who graduated college, summa cum laude.
Wow.
That's the highest honor you can get. And after college, he went to Harvard Law School, and he did really well there. And then after Harvard, he went to work for a really prestigious law firm. I don't think he ever enjoyed one day on his job. He hated it. And that's why career advising is so important.
Yeah.
We're not only trying to steer people toward careers, but we're trying to advise them on what not to do. What's important in life? What should you strive to achieve?
You had someone in here who was like into creative writing and publishing that I read about somewhere, so she kind of shadowed the publishing business. So I suppose you could probably lots of people want to be writers, so there's a wide berth of opportunities for that kind of thing too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things is we're really blessed. We have this really distinguished alumni body. So we can give students an opportunity of doing an internship with a Nobel Prize winner, with a Pulitzer Prize winner, with somebody who's won all kinds of awards for television. It's an extraordinary opportunity.
You know, one of the things that when Marjorie and I were talking about your book before you came, the thing that was high on our list of interest to both of us was the whole online part of education. I had a double. I did a double. When I read that what's called Coursera, that there are more people enrolled in Coursera than all of higher education combined. Did I get that right?
It's 10 times as many.
That is it's incredible. However, the first discussion we had about online education was with Governor Baker when he did something. I don't know what he was doing to advent. And the discussion we had was around the issue about whether or not the advent and expansion of online education, while it give many more people access, doesn't it create a two-tiered education system that the wealthy and those who know how to work the system will get contact with real people, which to me is hugely important. And I know it, you're nodding, I know it is to you. And those who can't afford it and don't have access, they'll get something they might not have gotten, but it's going to be a second-tier thing. How do you respond to that?
That's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Which is that we'll create two systems. But the thing that most people probably don't know is our image of the traditional college student, somebody who's like 18 to 24, who attends full-time, who lives in a dormitory or somewhere near close to the college. That's under 20% of all college students. The rest are part-time. They're working, a quarter have kids, and they're considerably older. So that the availability of online learning for the first time makes college accessible.
Well,
what's the but, though? There has to be a however. How do you ensure that it, while it's accessible on one hand, it isn't two-tier creating on the other hand? The good news is they get the education. The bad news is they come out with less than somebody else.
Even before you went to law school, in 1947, Harry Truman creates this Commission on Higher Education. And they say we owe all people two things. Number one, we owe them access to higher education. Number two, we owe them choice. They should be able to go to the school that best fits them. If I'm an incredible physicist, I should be able to go to MIT, even though I'm poor. We've done a great job as a nation, a decent job as a nation, in enhancing access. We've done nothing about enhancing choice, and that's a real issue. So what do? I think two things are going to happen. One is, when we look back at the state of online learning now, in a decade, 20 years, what we're going to find is this stuff looks primitive. It's going to be so dramatically different. I mean, Arizona State, for example.
Oh, the former big party school. It's reformed, I guess.
You just have to party online.
Yeah, that's right, party online.
Find other people who want to party with you. But the deal there is, they want their online learning to be as good or better than what's happening in their classrooms. I think that's going to happen at some point. We're going to be more equal, but not the same.
You know, you talk a lot about, as I see advertising on television all the time, Southern New Hampshire University, also University of Phoenix, which people used to make fun of as like a matchbook school. What are they doing in New Hampshire that's so great?
That's a really interesting experiment. So Paul LeBlanc goes to SNHU, and he says, oh my God, are we in trouble? The problem for us is we are a second choice school, a fallback school, in a region that's losing population. I can't have that happen. What do? And he sort of looks around the campus, and what he sees is this small online program for military people. And he says, that's the only shot I got. If you got lemons, you make lemonade. And what happens is this little program became 100-and-something thousand students online, overshadowing, but also providing revenue to enhance that school that existed before.
Yeah, I read 170,000. That's a lot.
That's a big classroom.
You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Arthur Levine, we're short on time, but I ask a couple of quick things. One, this is not a quick answer, but it has to be. Does higher ed survive 2.5 more years of Donald Trump?
That's a really difficult question. The answer is yes, it survives 2 more years of Donald Trump.
But
what I'd say is the damage that's being done to higher education by reducing the research capacity, by making it impossible for foreign students to come to the United States, who we're going to need to take jobs in the United States, will set us back so far that it'll take us decades to recover once he's gone. And it's not as if by not funding that research, nobody else is going to do it.
Yeah.
It's inviting other countries to take the mantle from us and they're doing it.
So that was a fairly brief answer. This one's going to be a drop briefer because we're running out of time. You're doing a fabulous program that we're going to talk to next time you come back, which I hope is soon, about this financial transparency where a parent and a student-to-be can actually know in advance what it's going to cost, not the, you wouldn't call it this, the scam that is perpetrated where you get a number and then all of a sudden the number grows exponentially. So we'll talk about that next time, I promise. It's called FAYE, F-A-Y-E, did I get that right?
Yeah.
Financial aid, FAYE. Is the proof in the, is enrollment, how are the numbers at your place? Is this working?
Well, we just started with FAYE.
How about with this other stuff you're talking
about? With all the other stuff, our applications were up by 40% this year.
Oh, wow.
It's what people want. And with FAYE, that's really a moral issue, which is if I can tell you how much you're going to pay, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
I mean, transparency and lack of, and high prices are huge problems for higher education. What I can do now, I'm a kid whose dad never finished high school. I only got to go to college because of scholarships. I can now find out that I can afford to go to a top school and what I'm going to have to pay.
Arthur Levine, it was a pleasure to meet you tonight, man. I hope you come back soon. That was great. The book's great, too.
Yeah,
thank you.
I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
We're speaking with Arthur Levine, president of Brandeis University's new book, co-authored with Scott Van Pelt, From Upheaval to Action, What Works in Changing Higher Ed. And like I said, you're going to learn a lot. Coming up after this quick break, summer camp season is almost upon us. It'd be nice to be there today. So hot. We'll speak with Jeanne Sherlock of the Metro West YMCA and Chris Smith of Boston After School and Beyond about the trials and tribulations and, of course, the joys of summer camp and after-school programs. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR, GBH, and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, could the Tobin Bridge become a bridge to the future? We look at a proposal to turn its dull expanse of steel into an interactive artwork, lit by tides and changing coastal conditions, and casting a light on climate change. Then Boston's music history hits the road as Soundscape Tours expands, with a new bus ride through the city's musical past. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Harvard Museums of Science and Culture. 4 museums a short walk from Harvard Square, with exhibits ranging from stunning glass flowers to ancient Egyptian mummy cases. Learn more at hmsc.harvard.edu.
And the Boston Speaker Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings, featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, historian Doris Kearns-Goodwin, and financial journalist Andrew Ross Sorkin. bostonspeakers.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Mayor Wu joins us for an hour at noon on May 27th. And as I said, we're working on scheduling the governor for her May appearance. Summer camp and enrichment season is almost upon us, which means you may be out of luck if you haven't already registered your kid. We've been reading that people spend their winter holidays trying to plan for this moment. Camps and enrichment programs are so booked up. Joining us to talk about keeping kids engaged and growing once the final classroom bell rings for summer is Jeanne Sherlock. Jeanne is the CEO of Metro West YMCA, metrowestymca.org. Jeanne, it's great to see you. Chris Smith, President and Executive Director of Boston After School and Beyond, bostonbeyond.org. And hello to you, Chris. Thanks so much.
Good to be with you.
You too.
Well, yeah, thank you both for coming in. So let's start with Jeanne Sherlock, CEO of Metro West YMCA. What's the deal? What goes on out there?
Well, first I want to thank you for the promotion. I appreciate that. I'm the COO of the
Oh,
Metro
you
West.
are?
Excuse me, COO.
Oh, no, I mean,
Beg
I'll
your
take
pardon.
it. I'll take it.
So where the hell's the CEO? Where is that? What's going on? Glad to have
I'm
you.
sure
Go ahead.
he's back getting ready for really for the coming summer. So what's happening now? We're getting ready, of course, and for to your comment, you are not too late to register
great.
for summer camps or enrichment, I'm sure, across the Commonwealth, although it is getting to crunch time. So we typically, at least at the Metro West YMCA, will plan to start as soon as school is out, to your point. So we are excited to get started and hopefully be a resource for families who might still be on the fence announcements about
And your
what
day
comes
camp,
next.
your day camp.
I am a day camp.
You're a
yes,
day camp,
correct.
okay. And what's the highlight of your camp?
Well, so again, at the Metro West YMCA, we have multiple programs, so whatever it is that you're interested in can be a highlight for you.
Okay.
We do, though, often talk about the highlight for YMCA camping is around character development and building really strong kids. As a parent myself, I know that just seems to be the things that parents are most concerned about. Will they find their friends? Will they be safe in an environment? So we talk about character development. We talk about challenging kids with new skills, helping them set individual goals and then crush them. And of course, again, making friends and finding really a community where you belong so they can be their authentic, silly selves for as long as humanly possible.
You know, Chris Smith, I read, before you tell us about your organization, you co-wrote a piece for Commonwealth Beacon with Paul Rebel, who's here pretty regularly, former Secretary of Education now at Harvard. For the 20% of time spent in school, we invest an average of over $23,000 per student per year. For the 80% of time spent outside of school, public expenditures sit at a mere $13 per student. Before you expand upon that incredible statistic, what exactly does your organization do?
Boston After School and Beyond works with the City of Boston, the Boston Public Schools, and a network of more than 200 summer programs who we expect to serve 18,000 kids. Wow. Although they're different in their focus from arts to sports, leadership development, STEM, they coalesce around a common set of measures, some of which Jeanne enumerated: teamwork, communication, perseverance, things that are not necessarily taught in school, but is fertile ground for summer programs to develop with kids. They also develop a common set of performance measures so we know who is doing what well and where they need to improve. And one reason we do that is to present a more credible collective presence for lawmakers and funders to fund those 80% of a young person's waking hours spent outside of school. It's arguably a stronger lever to pull when you want kids to succeed, not only in school, but also in college and post-secondary readiness. Because
is there still space in your operation?
There's plenty of space.
There
and
is.
If you visit our website, you can actually register for some of these 200 programs. You can register multiple kids.
BostonBeyond.org is that website.
And what kind of money are we talking about? Because that's a big deal. We get like 11 weeks of summer to fill if two parents are working. So what's the deal with your program, Chris?
Well, on average, the programs, each one's different. Some are enrichment, some are academic, some are both academics enrichment. But on average, a young person will get about 150 hours of additional learning and development. And the research we've been a part of on reinventing summer school from that old breakfast club version of summer school where everyone's bored, the teachers and the students alike, to one that's more enriching where you get more of what you want and therefore more of what you need. That's about $10 per kid per hour. So on average, it costs the programs about $1,500 per kid.
And what does it cost the families, the parents?
Nearly free in Boston. And
Nearly
that's the idea.
Free in Boston.
We're working with a population that's mostly low income. And but for funding from the Boston Public Schools, which has been substantial for the past decade, more recently the state through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and some private funders, it makes it affordable to kids who otherwise wouldn't be in these programs.
And Y camps are a little bit cheaper too, so they're not going to totally break the bank.
Yeah, it is expensive. They're expensive to run, I think, is also one of the things that that we certainly know and have to recognize. And a little bit like what Chris is talking about at the YMCA, we have a sliding scale fee for families so that we are a diverse group of all kinds of kids, families that can afford to pay for camp. Our summer camps are just shy of about $400 a week is what it's costing to attend. But we have, again, a sliding scale scholarship.
So that's full price, and then you go down from there.
That's full price, and then you can, again, sliding scale for financial assistance. We accept state vouchers. We have private funders that will donate to kids.
How old do the kids have to be?
We start at 3.
3, so that's great.
And we go all the way through high school
that's
with
great.
Workforce development programs.
Jeanne, when I was looking at your website, the 3 words that struck out, I don't know what the verb that preceded them was like, but we foster some verb, kindness, integrity, and resilience. I mean, I melted
that was
when I heard
really
that.
great job right there.
But is that, what does that mean? I mean, is that rhetoric or is that...
No, well,
What does that mean?
so for us, those words, we're talking a lot about building character in kids. We have received a multi-year grant from the American Camp Association to be very intentional about building character in kids.
How do you do that?
So we're focused on these three: kindness, integrity, and resilience. And most of this is around really training the staff team to understand what a teachable moment might be, where we can institute character development. We do have this opportunity at camp to do things that parents can't do. These kids are in diverse groups where they have to negotiate with each other, right? So we can build these, the number of teachable moments in a day or an afternoon is really immeasurable.
Chris,
Plus, you go to the pool, I assume,
Yes, the
and
pool.
learn how to swim really well
Yes.
from the YMCA pool. Okay.
Chris, I'm sure that everybody who doesn't live in Boston who's listening is totally aggravated with us and you. It's not your fault, but you are Boston. Are there comparable programs in other major centers in Massachusetts, or are you an outlier?
A lot of this started in Boston, especially the partnership with the school system, thinking about summer is learning time, but it's happening all across the state. Springfield Empowerment Zone Partnership, the United Way in Worcester.
Oh, great.
And this state grant I referenced funds these sorts of activities all over the Commonwealth. And you find that they make use of their particular resource, whether it's Mass Audubon out in Springfield or the Whalum Museum in New Bedford. Everyone has something to offer, and the idea is really to make the entire city a classroom so that there's programming in every neighborhood that's enriching and interesting to kids.
You know, we should have made clear at the top of this, but we should now. Well, one very valuable component of what you both do is you allow people to parents to actually go to work and have some peace and do their jobs. The other part of it is you are, this really relates to the 80% and $13 thing, is the summer slide thing. I mean, explain what the evidence, starting with you, Chris, is about what happens to a kid who doesn't have an enrichment experience during the summer when he or she or they go back to school in September.
It's not obvious to most of us, but actually where kids fall down, low-income kids fall behind their wealthier peers, is during the summer. In other words, they learn at about the same rate during the school year.
Really?
But that effect is cumulative. So every summer that goes by where they don't have access to enriching program, interactions with adults, vocabulary building, background knowledge, they fall behind in school. I'm concerned more about the lost opportunities to build those skills and connect with people, which will really serve them throughout a lifetime.
This is
not just
debatable,
the next school year.
right? Everybody in the industry,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to, you're acknowledging
Yes,
this too.
sir.
Everybody admits there's this slide, correct? So the issue is, what do you do with it?
Yeah, so again, the Metro West YMCA has participated in Achievement Gap pilots over the summer to try to bring some of this learning in. And again, our mechanism is this diverse environment, multiple kinds of learners helping each other. So it's STEAM, it's arts, it's swimming, it could be any number
I know
of
this
things.
is perverse, but is it possible, looking back a few years, that COVID actually helped advance what you do? Because at that time, the conversation was there's such a huge learning loss, we got to do something during the summer, and the discussion was much more intense than I've ever heard it. Maybe not in your boardrooms or rooms, but did that trigger greater? You're nodding. Yeah.
It did for us. It created a new investment at the state level in time spent out of school. And of course, during COVID, all time was spent out of school. And so I think there is a greater recognition of those hours and months and how they add up.
You know, I'm wondering, I think there's, about 50,000 kids in the Boston Public Schools? Where are the rest of them? You got 18,000. Are there other programs in the city, Boys and Girls Club and stuff like that? Because if you can't, it used to drive me crazy when my kids were young. I mean, you really got to pay for 14 weeks that school's out. And, you know, if you get 2 weeks vacation and both mom and dad, the partners are working, that's 14 weeks you're on the hook for, or 12 weeks anyway, for paid stuff. So where are the rest of them going?
Well, we're capturing, if you look at our programs, which are learning enrichment, plus the Mayor's Summer Jobs Campaign, which is about 10,000 kids depending on the year, we're getting to about 43% of the entire school age population,
so
not just BPS.
So you're almost up there.
And kids are in other places that aren't in our network, so it's probably north of 50%.
Yeah.
By the way, Jeanne, we just a mother just stopped by and spoke to Jamie and said, thanks to the YMCA, their staff is great. My kids love going there. A real lifesaver. So that is.
You are very welcome, and thank you.
And by the way, it's Jeanne Sherlock, who is not the CEO, despite what she attempted to have us say. She's the COO of Metro West YMCA. It's metrowestymca.org, and with her is Chris Smith, President and Executive Director of Boston After School and Beyond, bostonbeyond.org.
You know, Chris, I was going to ask you one other thing, too. You talked about these variety of programs these kids have. So do they come in and decide with their family what they're going to do, or do you guys decide? How does it work?
Kids and their families will often choose at the school level before the school year lets out.
Yeah.
Some will look at the website. Often it's peer-to-peer, so parents will tell other parents, hey, there's a great boxing program in Fields Corner you should check out, or some more adventurous ones that they haven't experienced, like sailing if they're in East Boston. So a lot of it's neighborhood and school-based and word of mouth.
Pretty neat.
So
And
what's the? I'm sorry, you go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, so what besides the pool are they doing? Besides learning and being nice and kind.
Well, let's hope that they're all being nice and kind, for
Right.
sure. So we have multiple properties. So again, if you look at our traditional camp, when I say traditional camp activities, they're learning how to swim. They're doing bows and arrows. We have high and low.
Oh, Jim, that was your big forte, wasn't
Archery.
it?
No, it's actually riflery. I don't talk about
riflery.
it, but it was.
We don't do riflery.
Well, I'm glad.
Your riflery's gone by the boards.
The
Okay.
only thing I was good at.
I
but
thought it
go
was
ahead.
archery, Jim. Sorry.
But arts and crafts, or arts
Yeah.
programs, or theater, or STEAM, or again, we're trying. We keep trying to try new things with kids so that they
Yeah.
can experience. We are finding that kids are a little less comfortable trying new things or things that maybe they're not good at. So as we're trying to create that environment where we have a lot of opportunities where you can try, fail, try again, and maybe find some
So,
success.
by the way, we should have disclosed both of our kids went to Y camps.
YMCA,
Yeah.
Camp High Rock.
Yeah.
My daughter
In the
started
Berkshires.
she
I
started
love
when
it
she was
there.
8. She left when she was 18. When she had been a counselor, they had to finally throw her out. But you know what's kind of neat?
Well, also Beckett is a wife.
Yes, it is.
Is that she's still tight with these women she went to camp with.
That's great.
I have a friend who's like my age, and I'm old, who still goes
that
to her
old.
summer camp now as a grown-up because she has such an attachment to it. My daughter still goes there for the cleanup weekends. You do make lifelong friends.
You do, and I think I earlier had said, and important to note, that camp does things that parents can't do. I'm also an overnight camp kid, so I appreciate some of your experiences there, and we're trying to bring that into day camp, these traditions and cultures, and just this desire to continue to be outside or to do some of those new things.
So what do you say to the desperate parent? And I'm assuming you were at one point. I know I was at one. What do you say to the desperate parent? What they do today if they haven't locked in something for their kid and the clock is ticking, starting with you, Chris?
It's not too late. Go to our website. There's 200 programs you can choose from. You can search by age, type of activity, neighborhood. There's something for you. And falling short of that, call us. We'll find something for you if you're in Boston.
How about you, Jeanne?
I would say if you're out in our area, metrowestymca.org, head on to the website. I'm also willing to have a conversation with any parent who is interested in trying to get into the Y Network. We have YMCAs all over the Commonwealth.
And Marjorie, I feared Marjorie's going to raise this, but since you do camps, I'm going to raise and get an opinion here from an expert. I went to overnight camp, in addition, and I was voted, this is true, most improved camper. Now, no. I was not just voted most improved camper. I was voted most improved camper 2 years in a row.
Oh.
And Marjorie's position is it's one thing to get it once. If you get it twice, you really had to start at the. What's your take on the 2 awards in 2 years I won, Jeanne? Be honest, please.
I think that you have a lot of friends at this camp that are trying to prop you up
Beautiful.
to say there is a future for you.
Exactly. Kindness, resilience, integrity. Don't you think that's?
Exactly.
Do you have any
Much
opinion
better
on this?
than
2 years in a row.
I think that's great growth, Jim.
Thank you. It's a true story. Humiliating as it is.
I understand you could do the dog paddle by the time you get out of there, couldn't you?
I was actually a fairly good swimmer. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You know,
He's a fairly good
before you
swimmer.
go, we only have a minute left. Any of you have any involvement in camps for adults? I have a lot of friends, so does she.
Yeah.
Who
still
had
go.
these experiences. I know it's not part of your deal. You're both nodding. Quickly.
Well,
30
ironically,
seconds.
we try to create opportunities for
Oh, you
families
do?
to come together
Oh.
and for adults. There are also some popular ones that have kickball and coolers involved, which the YMCA is not involved in, but
Not
Chris
exactly,
is nodding.
but what Marjorie described is quite common is that someone will go to a camp or a program as a kid, stick with it through a teenager, and maybe even end up working there full time.
Yes, exactly.
See that a lot.
Go back in the summer. A friend of mine, Iris, you've met Iris. She goes back to her camp and works there every summer teaching writing.
That's incredible.
She's there for like 5 weeks, and it's still the same. It's out in the middle of nowhere, beautiful trees, beautiful lake. It's quiet, no electronics. It's great.
Thank you both. And by the way, if they contact you, you could hook them up, Chris, with programs
Absolutely.
around the state. Same with you in terms of the Y. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Hope
you
you have
so
a
much.
great summer,
Thank
both
you.
of you.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Jeanne Sherlock, COO of Metro West YMCA. Visit metrowestymca.org. And Chris Smith, President and Executive Director of the Boston After School and Beyond, bostonbeyond.org. Thanks again to both of you. We say goodbye to those of you listening on NEPM, but make sure to tune into the Fabulous 413 at 3 this afternoon. We're going to keep going here in Boston. Juliette Kayyem is next. She's going to talk about the mosque murders and in San Diego and the war in Iran. We are right back, BPR, GBH, and NEPM.
If your spring cleaning this year includes parting ways with an old car or truck you no longer want, consider donating it to GBH. You may earn a tax advantage, and the proceeds will support the news you trust. Visit gbh.org/vehicle donation.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Direct Federal Credit Union, a Needham-based financial institution providing loans, saving solutions, and financial wellness resources for members across every stage of life. Learn more by visiting direct.com. Direct Federal, member NCUA.
And Coco Badakian & Sons, offering antique rugs since 1938. A range of hand-knotted, modern, and antique oriental rugs are available to view in their showroom at 808 Main Street, Winchester, or online at cocorug.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. A little programming note. The mayor of Boston will be with us here at the library on May 27th. Hello again, Jim.
Can I just say, well, we just got a text from somebody who aggravated me and saying, why do you have to say 8 times during the show, the mayor's here May 27th? The answer is, some people are unwise enough not to listen to the whole 2 hours. They may just hear a segment, so we're trying to be kind to those who are in that circumstance, whatever. Joined now at the library desk by national security expert Juliette Kayyem. Juliette is former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and CNN senior national security analyst. Hello, Juliette.
Hello.
Hello.
Summer for the
Hello.
day.
It is summer.
Juliette, so just because we talked about this with our listeners, a little breaking news here about 2 police officers that were at the Capitol on January 6th. Harry Dunn, you've probably seen him on TV. Heavy-set guy, black guy, was a big hero that day.
I think he's running for Congress as well,
he and Officer Daniel Hodges of the Metropolitan Police in Washington, they're both suing, trying to block the Trump administration creating this nearly $1.8 billion fund to give out, presumably, to some of the people that attacked those police officers. So what do you think? Can this get anywhere?
Oh, yes. I think I'm sort of at the stage where I think corruption may be the new democracy in the election, in the sense that people found it hard to vote for democracy because they didn't really see it taken away, people in terms of concerns about what Trump was going to do. The corruption is really hard to deny, and almost no one defends it. I mean, the Republican defense of the corruption now is either, well, woke was bad, right? Like, it's like, or trying to ignore it. I didn't read that tweet. So the corruption here, of course, is that Donald Trump sued. This pot of money is coming out of is the consequence of a lawsuit against the IRS.
Taxpayer money.
Taxpayer money. That then the court was clearly going to throw it out. So he turns around and says, well, give me, let's rebuild this as a slush fund for my supporters who have been, and it's not even prosecuted, it's like people whose feelings have been hurt. And so you're going to start to see people come forward saying, oh, the Democrats went after me because I was corrupt or illegal or sleeping with children, and I
one of the people who was pardoned is a sex abuser.
He's doing life. He's doing life.
You're laughing at me. Do not laugh. This is all true. So there's one is you're going to have lawsuits about how this was set up and the standards of using taxpayer money for a fund that is controlled by people we don't even know and what the distribution is. But I have a different take on it, which is in some ways like, let this all go. I mean, obviously this is going to be unwound if a Democrat wins, but it might even be unwound by November if the House, if the Democrats get the House or there's some specific oversight of all of these cases. And so, in some ways the corruption that no one around Trump tells him, the short-term benefit you get for this, because it's just going to be short-term, has to be considered against the long-term narrative of all this corruption. And it's not just this. Obviously, this same week, he had to disclose that he has been doing day trading, like he's not busy enough as president of the United States, for investing in companies that he then ended up taking to Chicago. To China. And that too, suggests that he is sort of gaming his own wallet, as are the sons, as is Jared Kushner. I will tell you, this Ossoff guy, the Georgia senator who's running,
he's big on corruption.
Very, very interesting, because I think he does have a lane, and it's not a Democrat or Republican lane. It's just a lane that's just sort of highlighting Jared, the sons, Trump, and what they're gaining. So I think this lawsuit, they clearly have a claim, which is you can't pay off people who were rightfully prosecuted by juries. This is not.
Well, they also say Congress has to appropriate the $1.8 billion. You can't, by executive action, decide that $1.8 billion of taxpayer money is going to be spent. And by the way, we said yesterday, I want to repeat, while there are conflicting reports, everything I've read from credible sources say there is no obligation on the part of the executive branch, the Justice Department, to disclose who the recipients of the $1.8 billion are. So your tax dollars will be spent in part on corrupt felons, and you won't even know who has gotten the money.
Yeah, and then just to, in the sort of radicalization or sort of what we should anticipate for November, probably less so for November 2026, but for November 2028, he is essentially creating a group of people that will be willing to do what they did before. They have now been pardoned, so they have no criminal convictions, and they will get paid for it.
Their crimes.
So he's paying for his own, essentially, militia. There are some people, I will say this, and I have been saying it, a lot of the January 6th rioters did not get, they got sentences but did not get prison time, and a lot of them do regret what they did. But there is a group of them who are ready for round two, and there's a group of them, as we've seen, I don't know, it's a couple dozen now, who have been convicted for other crimes, including the most heinous of crimes.
Post-pardon, right?
Including rape of children. They were putting these people back out on the street.
Okay, so I'm so glad you wrote this piece about one angle on the shootings, the killings in San Diego. And the reason, I had said to Marty even before I saw your piece, if this attack had been on a Christian church or a synagogue, this would be the top story for days. It's on a Muslim community, and it was like headline and then gone.
I was
you're saying the same?
I was telling Jamie,
it's
because
unbelievable.
I sort of feel this from the CNN perspective. I was in LA till this morning. I took an overnight and got about 8 calls in 1 hour, and I was just in a meeting. I couldn't do anything. Did a couple hits by Tuesday, and then. I was like, was it me? But it wasn't me. It was something deeper. And I think that the point. Well, I make 2 points in the article that I want to make. And one is, of course, and I'm being proven true that the stew of hate that is grabbing these isolated white men who are heavily armed or who have access to arms. These two met online, not at all clear the nature of their relationship. And I think things will prove to be very, very complicated. But the idea, their manifesto is described as a stew of hate. They chose a Muslim facility, but of course, they hate Catholics, they hate Jews, they hated everyone. And so the idea that we can sort of separate these and sort of say, this one's more important because we worry more about anti-Semitism. I looked at their manifesto. They're so stupid, they don't even know the difference between all of this hatred. But hatred towards any minority religious group is hatred towards all of them. And I have a quote from not a minority or the Catholic bishop in the San Diego area, which is just reminding us that these are about religious institutions, not a particular religious institution. The other point I wanted to make is the irony, of course, that a week later, we talked about this last week, a week later, after the White House's counterterrorism strategy came out, which I described then, more as a world ideology than a strategy, and did not mention, right-wing extremism, radicalization online, white males who are within the sort of right-wing, but it's not always right-wing. It's also left-wing, of course, but it's like nihilism, hatred. The fact that they not only do they not mention it, but they don't mention it as the number one domestic threat, which it is. It clearly is. All the numbers prove the case. Is an irony, but we have our lived reality, which is we know that this is happening, making the strategy all that more absurd and useless and a waste of taxpayer dollars.
Okay, so let's go from that little war with great consequences in San Diego to the one that still goes on in Iran. Here's a little exchange between Seth Moulton, congressman from Massachusetts, running for the U.S. Senate against Ed Markey. Here he is saying at a hearing that the U.S. was losing the conflict, and then he has this clash with Brad Cooper, the head of U.S. Central Command. First Moulton, then Cooper.
Doesn't seem to be going well, and I would like to know how many more Americans we have to ask to die for this mistake. Do you know? I think it's an entirely inappropriate statement from you, sir. With all due respect.
That is General Cooper.
Yes.
I think it's an entirely inappropriate statement for you, sir. So he thinks, Moulton thinks we're losing. It's a mistake. It's not going well. I can't imagine anybody thinks it is going well. What is the state of affairs? Is anything happening?
No, I mean, I also thought it was odd because General Cooper, of course, was attacking Seth Moulton. First of all, Congressman Moulton's statement was like normal.
I
was like, what? Like, of all the statements that we've even heard Moulton say in the past, that was pretty benign, which was just sort of, I'm looking at the numbers and the strategy. What is the war? But I also thought that the military testimony was interesting because, I'm not defending it, but just in the sense that he kept saying, a couple of them kept saying, well, the strategy is, the civilian leadership. I'm asked for a plan, and then I provide the plan for execution, which is hardly a ringing endorsement of what we now know is not a strategy. I don't know if you saw about an hour ago, Trump said, I think on his way to the Coast Guard graduation, where he's the keynote speaker, Trump said, every time I see someone mention is it 9 dead now?
13.
13 dead now. I totally crack up. I mean, do you know how many people died in World War II? I mean, he literally said
No, he said this?
Yeah, he said this just about an hour ago.
Wow.
So I mean, we know that Trump doesn't sort of put consequences, doesn't have the empathy gene, or doesn't put the consequences together. But where are we on the war? I think, can I say I'm right? Right, which is
Go ahead,
the
say you're
president.
right.
The president doesn't have an exit strategy. He cannot get the Iranians to agree to what he needs for the Straits of Hormuz to remain open. And so I think he said today as well, we're almost done. We're almost done. I mean, we've been almost done with this war since it began. It is why he's moving to Cuba. I mean, it's why all this focus on Cuba. Secretary Rubio had a 5-minute in Spanish statement to the Cuban people. We're starting to see that drumbeat. Yeah,
ignoring
and then
the United
some
States
sympathetic
role.
reporters have been used to sort of drop that Cuba. I mean, people. I mean, maybe you could make an argument that Iran was an imminent threat if you believe that Cuba is an imminent threat. I mean, you haven't been there, right? Like, I trust me, Cuba is not an imminent threat. I will tell you what's an imminent threat: Cuba's failure. I mean, in other words, we never talk about consequences in this country anymore. But if actually we did something that was disruptive without a day 2 plan, we will see a mass migration out of Cuba. They want out. They don't. Our embargo has kept them from food and water and all sorts of ability to live with no oil. So if you're a Cuban, you're getting on a boat to try to get out. You're going to have a mass migration, which from what I'm looking, I haven't heard anyone talk about this.
Well, you know what I wonder about Iran too is that a lot of countries are really up against it now with not having any oil. There's been all these stories about countries in the Middle East that depend, they got the Gulf loaded on this oil. Now they're really in dire straits. European countries.
Yeah.
So I would think the pressure is going to be on
Yeah,
dramatically.
You know, I say
for
that
somebody.
as if Trump is responsive to sort of the will of the people. I mean, I keep looking at his polling. I think it's down even further today. He's obviously, he has a stronghold on the Republican Party. I don't think the Republican Party exists after this. I mean, I'm now beginning to think there is now going to be a third party because he has such a stronghold. But he's now lost completely the independents, who are going to be looking for a party or to see if the Democrats can appeal to them. This president is not receptive to popular will, because he will either move on or he just he's so in his cocoon, so high on his supply. And you look at even the testimony of people like the Transportation Secretary Duffy, who can barely defend this road trip that he did, sponsored by the very companies he's supposed to oversee, and he does this. They all want to be reality TV stars, and there's just like this way that they testify that is so antagonistic, because they can't defend the policy, so they're just going to come out brutal and sort of wreck everything in the process, so that your only takeaway is, wow, he was really hostile, rather than, wow, he couldn't answer basic questions about his agency. So I think, I was out in LA, and I was in an Uber, but I looked up at a gas station. I think it was close to $6.
It's a lot of money in
I was
California.
like, yeah, I mean, it was just, and so I but he's not going to be responsive to that.
What about pressure from other countries, though? I mean, maybe other countries going to get together, the Europeans, the European Union, and do something without us or something?
But what would be the without? I mean, he doesn't have he does not have a plan forward for Iran, because he thought that he would, he just believed Netanyahu. And I mean, actually, let me take that back. He's the president of the United States. He has every capacity to say no to Netanyahu. He wanted to listen to Netanyahu, and so I don't know how this ends. I mean, as I said, it doesn't end. I mean, when this started, it does not end with air power. It ends with who's going to control the waterways. And now you hear the White House say, we just want to get things to back where they were before.
Before you go, you're talking about the unfavorability of Trump, which is at historic lows for both of his terms.
Yeah.
Just looking up as you were speaking, the good news for Trump is there's actually one entity that has lower approval rating. You know what it is?
Congress?
Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So they can get through a midterm, because I think any pundit, even on the right, would say it's about the party in power.
Yeah.
It's not about what your plan is. Are you confident that, even assuming that they win the House, maybe the Senate come January, they take their seats in November and take their seats in January, that the Democrats have the ability to put together a coherent policy?
I do, because I would be in that vote. I mean, in other words, I would be in that vote. I'm such a institutionalist party girl. You tell me who the candidate is, and I'll help them substantively. I tend not to get into primary fights, whatever. And I left 2024. I tell my kids I'm radicalized, and then they crack up. You're like, this is hardly radical. But I am definitely not. I am definitely, like most people I know, looking, assessing, researching, figuring out who can move forward. So if you ask me that question now, I would say I'm not happy with the Democratic Party as well. But I think that will align. I don't know where the party's going. I mean, there are days where I think AOC's got it. It's her moment. It's her moment, because she's just, other times I think, we should do a Bashir, because that's Clinton and that makes us feel good and stuff. I don't know.
Southern governor. By the way, for the most recent poll, which is obviously insanely early for those who are shaking their head when she mentioned Ocasio-Cortez, the front runner for the Democratic nomination is Newsom, and a fairly close second is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I'm not endorsing anyone. I just think that if you're, over 50, talk to young people, and if you want them to get engaged, she's getting them engaged. Yeah. And I think things can be surprising, right? I mean, in other words, if the Republican Party, after doing McCain and Romney, decides, you know what, we need someone someone that may be offensive to everyone.
Look at Graham Plattner.
I mean, look
Maine.
at Graham Plattner. I mean, I think that's right. I mean,
Janet Mills is a popular governor. I mean, she didn't make it to the primary.
And so I'm very open in the sense that I don't, as a lifelong Democrat, what I do know is I, too, would answer a poll and say I'm unhappy with my party.
By the way, Plattner has beaten Mills. He has not won a general election.
Yeah,
so
they haven't gone to the primary.
No, he is the nominee. I mean,
right.
But I'm saying he has to beat Susan Collins.
He does have to
beat
Susan Collins.
But I mean,
the future of this party.
But I'm engaged with that race now. I wouldn't have if it was Janet Mills. I mean, I think we're all looking for
so you don't think Chuck
retort.
Schumer is the man to lead us into the...
I mean, if it's a sitting senator, I think we should all look at Brian Schatz from Hawaii. I think he's a very interesting...
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's really good.
Okay, good to see you,
Okay,
Juliette.
I'll see you guys later.
You so
Bye.
much.
Have some
Bye.
politics talk.
Juliette Kayyem, thank you very much. We have been speaking with our national security expert, Juliette Kayyem, former Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, CNN's senior national security analyst. She got a great piece in The Atlantic. It's up now about the terrible triple murders at the mosque in San Diego. Coming up after this quick break, the Ellie Fund provides wraparound services for people in breast cancer treatment. We'll speak with the president and CEO, Meredith Mendelson. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, questioning if you're going to be able to keep those perennials alive through this heat wave. Well, we've got the executive director of the Wakefield Arboretum standing by to take your burning, watering questions. Put those black thumbs to use. Pick up the phone and give us a buzz. That's the Curiosity Desk, today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Cambridge Trust, a division of Eastern Bank, offering business and personal wealth management and private banking services, investing more than $240 million in local communities since 1994. More at cambridgetrust.com.
And New England Recovery Center, providing inpatient addiction treatment in state-of-the-art facilities located in Westboro, Mass. Learn more at newenglandrecoverycenter.org or by calling 1-877-MY-REHAB.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library. Streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Mayor Wu will join us on the 27th at the library for Ask the Mayor. Joined now by Meredith Mendelson, Executive Director of the Ellie Fund. It's an organization that provides wraparound services to people in breast cancer treatment, things like grocery assistance, housework, transportation, even acupuncture, as they launch a new focus on something we talk a lot about here, health equity. Ellie Fund, ELLIE Fund.org. Meredith, it's great to see you. Hi.
Thank you very
really
much
nice to be here.
for coming in again, Meredith. So before we get to the health equity piece, elaborate on what Jim said. How does this work? You get a diagnosis and then people come to your house with groceries? How's it work?
We would do that. So thanks again for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. So the way it works is if a person is diagnosed with breast cancer, hopefully their medical facility who knows about us, we work very closely with them, will refer to us, and we will do a personalized grant for the patient depending upon what they need. Childcare, transportation, groceries, very personal. We also can self-refer, so I know for a fact that after this broadcast, there are patients out there or there are loved ones of people going through breast cancer that are going to say to their loved one, I just heard about the Ellie Fund, go self-refer. So there's lots of ways to find us, and we even brought cards for people if you want to take them in the audience.
I just got one. Thank you.
Yeah.
So a new part of your operation is this Breast Cancer Equity Coalition, a relatively new part. What's the focus there?
So we joined the Boston Breast Cancer Equity Coalition in 2019, and then we became the permanent home of the coalition, which is a real honor. And what we do, together with hospitals, the city of Boston, the Commonwealth, the legislature, is we work together to better the outcomes for Black and brown women in Massachusetts who die at much higher rates than white women of the same diagnosis at the same time. And we work on why that is. And why that is because they don't have access to early treatment. They may not have consistent transportation to get there. They may not have childcare or food to feed their families. And we know that breast cancer, unless you have stage 4 breast cancer, which is a totally different situation, is curable.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most dramatic things I think I've ever heard on the show, she said it in plenty of places. The first person to say it to us was Ayanna Pressley, maybe even was a city councilor then and running for Congress, talked about getting on the T in Roxbury and getting off in Harvard Square, and the life expectancy drops 23 years. I mean, it's stunning. There are comparable kinds of things. And as you said, the incidence, from what I understand, of breast cancer in people of color and white people in this neck of the woods here is similar. It's the outcomes, the mortality, where they part ways. Right.
The mortality is significant in Mattapan versus women in the Back Bay. Patients in Mattapan are 2.8 times more likely to die than the Back Bay. Right here in Massachusetts. So the coalition was founded because in 2014 there was a study done about outcomes for Black and brown women in the country. And Massachusetts was the 5th worst in the country, despite where we're located with all these incredible hospitals and facilities.
So how do you explain that? We don't give a damn? No, I'm serious. How do you explain that with all the resources here?
Because social determinants of health are more important or as important as they should be. Our services should be part of a treatment plan so that you can complete treatment. You can't say to someone you have to come for 20 appointments and the treatment is really hard. And by the way, your parking isn't covered or your child care, you may have to stop working, but your expenses don't stop, and nobody saves for breast cancer.
Yeah.
It's one of the highest rates of bankruptcies of any cancer.
Really? I didn't know that. Why breast cancer? Why is it higher than other ones? Do we know that?
Maybe because it's longer treatment.
Yeah,
I really don't
longer.
know. But I do know that a breast cancer patient is likely to be saddled with about $8,000 or $9,000 after treatment in unexpected medical costs. And the Ellie Fund is free. And so we're hoping everybody will know someone, not know someone who that we don't hope for that.
But if you know
someone, please, we're here. And it's so simple to apply and accessible. And we just want to serve.
That's the voice of Meredith Mendelson, Ellie Fund, ELLIEFund.org. She's the executive director. I'm sorry, Marjorie.
And as you just said, if it's a woman with young children, childcare would be key if she's got to go for treatment and there's no one else to watch the kids.
Yeah, it's impossible. So we have adapted. We have had much younger women being diagnosed in Massachusetts. We had last year a 14-year-old that became an Ellie Fund patient.
Oh my gosh.
We have lots of young moms. We're so close to the social workers and the doctors in the community that we've had requests. Meredith, can your team help? This patient needs a night nurse. They're diagnosed during pregnancy. How do they sleep? How do they stay healthy for this baby while they're being diagnosed?
You know, Meredith, you said your services are free. We talked to Mayor Wu, I think it was last year, about her initiative, Close the Gap, $2 million to address not just around breast cancer, but around all these health inequity things. Where's the money coming from, and are our governments invested as heavily as they need to be?
I don't think so. We're really lucky here in the Commonwealth that the legislature took a big interest in us. It started with the Women's Caucus, and they heard about the Ellie Fund, and they invited me to speak to their members. And I said, we have these services for your constituents. And we started to get patients, and they started to see the benefit. And we eventually, after 3 years, were able to get a $600,000 grant from the Commonwealth that has now been repeated 3 times.
Great.
So that's huge for an organization like ours. The rest is philanthropy.
You know, since we badmouth the legislature every single day, is there anybody you want to name who's a champion, or you don't want to?
Absolutely. Karen Spilka, Senate President. She took an interest in us.
Well, that's
wonderful. And it's bipartisan. Everybody helps us.
Well, there are 3 Republicans, so bipartisan is not saying much, but okay.
Before you go, tell us about, this is a great story about Ruth Spalding.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
So Ruth Spalding, who we fondly know as Chip, is a long time supporter of the Ellie Fund, and she was a patient about 20 years ago, so she's a survivor, and someone had sent her flowers when she was going through treatment, and it just hit the right chord. It just made her happy. It made her smile. It relaxed her. And she found out about the Ellie Fund, and I would say 11 years ago, she started providing funds for us to send our patients unexpected bouquets of flowers when we knew, because we're close to them, that they were having a really hard time. So that was going on for 11 years. She never told anyone who she was. I don't even think her kids knew. I never told the board who it was. And she finally came to us and she said, I'm not going to be here forever. How do I make sure that the Flower Fund exists? And I said, well, you need to start a fund, a legacy fund at the Ellie Fund, and it will live in perpetuity. And she did, and she allowed us finally to announce who she was.
That's great.
And it lives right here in Massachusetts, and she's the most beautiful soul, and she just wants to give hope when people least expect it.
That's a beautiful story. That
Meredith,
is a beautiful
it's great
story.
to see you. Congratulations
Thank you so much.
on your work.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
We've been speaking with Meredith Mendelson, Executive Director of the Ellie Fund. For more information, go to elliefund.org. That is ELLIE, elliefund.org, for a lot of great stuff they got going on over there. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to open the lines, since it is kind of hot out today, about Boston's apparently unhinged ice cream scene. Would you like to have just, plain vanilla ice cream, maybe just plain chocolate? Do you want your ice cream dipped in hot butter or infused with fish sauce? Oh, God. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy, listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Ice cream and you. That's next on 89.7 GBH.
In 1972, 5 men were arrested at the Watergate complex. The story could have stopped there, but 2 reporters had greater instincts, including following one shadowy source's instruction.
Just follow the money.
I'm Jared Bowen. For our next watch party, we're revisiting All the President's Men, the newsroom masterpiece starring Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman as Woodward and Bernstein. Call in to tell us how this classic resonates now. That's on The Culture Show, Friday at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the University of Rhode Island's College of Business. URI's online Blue MBA blends ocean science, business strategy, and real-world impact. Learn more at uri.edu/BlueMBA.
And White Flower Farm, offering home gardeners a wide selection of plants, tools, and supplies for the growing season ahead. More at whiteflowerfarm.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH, 89.7 GBH. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan, live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH. As Marjorie said, another hot day topic to discuss. If you're an ice cream loyalist, who is not? In Boston, you might be out of luck. A new piece in the Globe by Deborah First is proclaiming the city's ice cream scene totally unhinged. Sort of like our leader, actually. Same thing. While we're talking soft serve dip. This is what she wrote: melted butter and plopped into a lobster-shaped cone. That does nothing for me. Savory flavors like fish sauce, salted caramel, and pear and blue cheese. I mean, really? As First writes, did my taste buds just take ayahuasca? Is that how you say that? Ayahuasca, whatever. And go traveling through the different planes of my manifold lives, past, future, and alternate? Maybe. The lines are open at 877-301-8970. Caller text. What's the deal with the ice cream scene? Are you just like out there screaming for plain old vanilla and chocolate? Or are you into flavor experimentation on this hot day? What's your go-to flavor? And what matters most to you about ice cream? You can talk soft serve. You can talk hard ice cream. 877-301-8970. Knowing you as I do, I'm assuming your favorite flavor is the favorite flavor of America, which is vanilla. Is that correct?
Well, actually, no, Jim. I'm a little bit more. I love. I go to the same place every.
I know, 7 C's.
No, it's 4 C's.
4 C's, whatever.
You're close enough.
I go to 7 C's.
It's in Centerville, Massachusetts, down the Cape. It's near.
It's
near Hyannis. I would say my favorite is peach ice cream.
Wow.
Or caramel ice cream.
Wow.
Or maybe when I'm feeling wild and woolly, I might go for maple walnut. Those are my favorites. But
really?
I can't see this. I mean, these things sound absolutely crazy to me. The kind of they're making it. Listen to this. This flavor: perfume rice, jasmine green tea, jasmine rice.
Green tea ice cream is really good, by the way.
Well, then you should go right to this place.
Okay.
Third time together, it's called house-made tepache. I don't know what that is. Fermented pineapple drink. And then they have another one called Merchant of Baghdad with maple and fenugreek gelato, streaked with Iraqi Jewish mango sauce amba. I mean, I don't even know what any of this stuff is. But people apparently they love it. They like sour green plum and basil ice cream with apricot pate de fruit candies and bouncy flavor bombs.
How old's your kid, Jamie? I can't remember. 6. Okay, Jamie's kid is 6. This is Jamie. I took my kid to Honeycomb Creamery in Cambridge the other day. By the way, was there a line like into Somerville? It's unbelievable. He's waiting in a long line, this is the kid, before getting in the front and being offered orange and olive oil brownie. He made an audible groan and said, "Can't I just get Oreo?"
Exactly.
That's a pretty good story.
It's out of the mouths of babes. I mean, I don't know. This doesn't sound like ice cream to me.
Can I say something here, if I may?
Go ahead, Jim.
I would like to say 2 things. Marjorie rudely did not ask me what my favorite
What's your favorite,
flavor was.
Jim?
Well, now it's too late.
Okay.
Okay. I forgot what it's called.
Jim is insulted.
What's that cereal I love? What's the cereal?
It's grape nuts.
Grape nuts. Grape nuts ice cream. Fabulous. That's number 1.
Okay.
Number 2, I'm not talking soft serve, which I love in summer. Hard ice cream. You know what the most important thing beyond the flavor? The
butter.
Texture. No, the texture.
Right,
You need
it has to be creamy.
Chewy. No.
Chewy?
is the whole key to everything.
Oh, I
There's
want it creamy.
There's this micro creamery in Cambridge, where they actually, according to Deborah
New City Micro Creamery.
They sell peanut butter banana fluff, which I will never order.
Made with liquid nitrogen.
And you know what you have to do, by the way, before you buy a pint, because it's fabulous ice cream?
What do you have to do, Jim?
You have to take a second mortgage on your house. It is unbelievable. But the texture of that and Christina's in my neighborhood in Inman Square, the chewiness, I know this doesn't sound right, but the chewiness of the ice cream, when you have it, you know it, and we don't need that sound. Thank you very much. It is fabulous. 877-301-8970. And let me say one more thing before we get to the calls. I would say that someone, an adult, when they go up to the counter, and if they only order something like chocolate, vanilla, or mint chocolate chip, you know what they are? Embarrassed to say it out loud, because you can't be a traditionalist when it comes to ice cream.
Well, somebody just texted and says, where can I get the pear and blue cheese? You can get the pear and blue cheese. Where's the pear and blue cheese, Jim?
I have no idea, and I don't want to know.
Oh, here it is. At Salt and Straw. It's opening its first Boston branch in the Seaport.
That's too bad.
With the pear and blue cheese. Saffron with wildflower honey. Actually, that sounds pretty good. Saffron milk with wildflower honey. Listen to this one. Fish sauce, salted caramel. Fish sauce.
You know what I did, by the way, which I was really proud of myself?
Then they do Thanksgiving. Do you know what they have on
whatever.
Thanksgiving? The turkey stuffing and cranberry sauce.
Don't get so upset. You don't have to eat it. It's not like a force feed kind of thing. You order what you want. Can I tell you something I'm very proud of, by the way?
What are you proud of,
Last
Jim?
summer, I was trying to lose weight. So I'm in Provincetown, and I go to the ice cream thing right by the pier. You know what I did, which I was really proud
What'd
of?
you do?
I ordered a cone. You listening to this?
I'm listening.
I ordered a cone.
Yep.
I took 3 bites. And you know what I did?
You threw it out.
I threw it out.
Why?
Because I said I was trying to lose a few pounds.
Oh.
I didn't want to deny myself the joy of the
Wow.
ice cream. So essentially, I had a small portion, and I threw it out, which I thought was really quite creative and showed great boldness
You
on
are
my
a disciplined man.
Thank you.
I've noticed that you're shrinking.
And you know what I did after that?
You're shrinking a
I
lot.
went into the garbage can, pulled it out, and finished it. Let's go. That's not true, but she wasn't paying attention.
I
Wanted to make
was
sure
paying
she was.
attention.
Kathy, you're in. It's very small. Methuen, welcome to the show. We're talking ice
Kathy.
cream. Hi. Ice cream. Kathy. Okay. Kathy, we'll put Kathy on hold. We'll get back to her someday. Beaver in what village? Forge Village. Hi
Forge
there, Beaver.
Village.
How are you?
They are very small.
What's up?
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Never better.
My
Thank you.
favorite ice cream, Jim. It will be Jim's one day if he ever has it. Is frozen pudding ice cream from Kimball Farm in Westford, the greatest ice cream.
I can eat
around.
frozen pudding ice cream.
Where's
That sounds
Kimball
pretty
Farms? Where's Kimball Farms?
It's in Westford on Route 110.
Thank you very much.
good. Well, thank you.
Hard ice cream is the only way to go.
And by the way, what is your perspective on chewiness when it comes to ice cream, Beaver?
Well, frozen pudding ice cream has a lot of fruits in it, so it does have some chewy.
Beaver, you're a thoughtful man. Thank you for your call. Anonymous texter, listen to this. I was about to write in and say I liked, you ready, Marjorie? Chewy ice cream like Jim does, but he went ahead and said it, of course. Dude is obsessed. I think he's talking about me, and I am.
Well, I like it creamy. I like it a little bit melted. You know what I mean? That's why I always get it in a
No, I
dish.
don't like it a little melted.
Listen to this, Jim. You should get right down to Tizzy's in Providence, Rhode Island, says Kim in Boston. They sell exclusively cereal milk ice cream. They soak the cereal in the milk overnight, then strain it and make ice cream out of the result. You get Cocoa Krispies milk, ice cream milk, Lucky Charms milk, variety of seasonal flavors. She says then she says, it's actually not that bad. That's not exactly
Well, that's not a ringing endorsement.
a recommendation. It sounds like a great idea, though.
Are you a soft serve person?
I like soft serve.
You know where a great soft serve is? Right down the street at Flower. And
Flower. That's where they stole the little ice
stole the
cream
cone.
cone sign.
I mean, by the way, can I just say one thing about this?
It's about a foot and a half tall.
It is not their fault. Christopher Myers and Joan Chang are friends of ours,
Yes.
and we should say that. So this is not a criticism of them. Is this the most overplayed story in the history of the universe?
There has been a lot of coverage.
It was like a little 2-foot
Have
plastic
they caught the
cone.
thieves? Have they caught the
No,
people that stole it?
It's like Sherlock Holmes is going to be brought in.
Well, people are into their ice cream and stuff.
It's not
and-
about ice cream.
Yeah.
It's about a mascot.
Now, somebody says that what makes or break an ice cream store is the real whipped cream.
But that's you speaking, correct?
You don't want to
I'm
go
with
to
you.
don't want to go to a place that's going to spray the whipped cream out of the can.
Do you put nuts on your ice cream? I don't like that at all. I don't like the nut thing.
I don't even skip to the hot fudge. I just have the peach ice cream.
You know what's
and the
better than
whipped
hot
cream.
fudge?
What?
Butterscotch.
Butterscotch
Hot
is very
butterscotch
good.
is
Butterscotch
really,
is very good.
really something.
Kathy from Lincoln. Thank
Hi,
you for
Kathy.
calling.
How you doing?
Hi, how are you doing?
We're good, thank you.
My favorite ice cream is chocolate or vanilla with chocolate jimmies, which I had no idea what they were because I came from Western New York and would come and visit our relatives. My father was from New Bedford. And we would go out to Cape Merriam and Gulf Dairy. I don't know if it's still there, but it was the best ice cream in the world. The heck with all these other exotic
Well, you're a
things.
traditionalist.
Kathy,
That's
you're
a beautiful
traditionalist, but
thing,
that was a
Kathy.
great call.
Thank you. By the way, do they? I can't remember. Do they? I moved here, as you know. Wasn't born here, unlike you. Where I grew up, they were called Jimmies. Here they call them sprinkles.
I always
or
called
is it
them.
reverse?
I grew up here. I called them Jimmy's.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay, so here is a poll from Sandy Neck. The best buy around is Market Basket soft serve.
Really?
3 sizes. One. It's got to be a bigger Market Basket. Mine doesn't have this. $1.99, $2.59, $3.59. I usually buy large. Listen to this creativity and poll. I buy large in a cup with a cone on top. When we get back to the car, my wife takes the cone, spoons half into it. He eats the other half out of the cup. Is that
I like
a beautiful
that.
relationship?
There's a strategy there. I like that. The planning ahead.
What do you think
Robin
of before you go, Meredith Mendelson, what do you think of her 2 minutes ago?
I thought she was great.
Okay, she just texted.
Her ice cream flavor?
I ran an ice cream store for 10 years. Ready for the finish?
Yep.
Chewy is key. says Meredith Mendelson.
Okay.
I'll say no more.
All right. Robin from Dennis says,
Thank
my
you, Meredith.
favorite is chocolate chip. The most important thing for me is the chip to ice cream ratio and the size of the cup.
I am so with
I
Robin.
want lots of chips,
Lot of
and I
chips.
want the chips to be sizable, not the tiny
Amen.
specks that some places use.
Robin knows how to live.
I think people are very passionate about their
Chip
particular ice
size.
cream. I like that very, very much. Oh, what is frozen pudding ice cream?
What's the guy just called?
The person says it's summer fruitcake. Yuck. That's Susan from Manchester, New Hampshire.
Well, if somebody doesn't like it, other people do. It's not, don't get upset about it.
Aren't you ecumenical
I am.
today,
I'm
Jim?
trying to be.
Some people like it, some people don't.
Exactly. Let's go to Kathy.
I think that's a really brilliant remark.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment.
Kathy
See
from
you in
Franklin. Thank you for calling.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
I was, believe it or not, this morning I was watching the Drew Barrymore show.
Oh.
And they were doing a whole thing on a new ice cream that is out now. I cannot remember the name, but it is made with breast milk.
With what?
Breast milk.
Oh, my
well,
God.
You know, even if you're a fan of the show, don't send me a pint, Kathy, okay? I don't
know how to get it myself.
I don't think I'd be doing that.
Well, they were tasting it on the show,
That's
and
nice.
they said it was excellent.
Well,
And
okay.
that the
Sort of ruining the spirit here.
Yeah.
Hey, you have a horrible connection. Thank you for the
Okay.
call. We appreciate it, but we got
There's
to let you go.
The place in
Horrible
Kendall
connection.
Square, of course, near MIT, has got ice cream flavors. I don't even know what they mean. It's intellectual ice cream, Jim. That's what they say. This
What
is
does
the
that
place
mean?
third time together. Well, here's the name of their one of their flavors. It's called Albius Legacy.
Never heard
Who's
of it.
Albius? Do you
I
know?
live a few blocks from there. I don't know.
Vanilla with pink
Pimples in
peppercorn.
it?
Pink peppercorn. That's
No.
what Albius Legacy. Then they have the Myth of Marco Polo II.
Hmm.
Seashow with dark chocolate, whatever that means. I guess because they're from MIT, they're saying all these things that I don't know what they.
You know what's really
they
good,
mean.
by the
so
way?
So much vimming.
Okay, good.
This is a spice Vimpo cordial with a swirl of golden
Mhm.
raisins, hazelnuts, dessert wine, vinegar.
What is the point of this reading?
The point of this reading is that we have these bizarre flavors of ice cream that are edging aside.
Well, can I say something that's new to this discussion?
Yes, Jim.
Some people like them. Some people don't like them.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
That is where I fault. Now, an anonymous
beautiful.
texter, even though I was offended by this, an anonymous texter asked, we deliver, could we please play the ice cream tasting sound again? Let's just do that. Yeah, what is appealing about that? Did you like
Something
that?
they're snapping fingers.
Well, they were obviously not snapping.
We
My
could,
two
we could
favorite
play something from SNL.
No, I
want
want to say before you do that, can I tell you
Yeah.
what other ice cream is fabulous if you want
What?
to adjust a traditional flavor?
Mhm.
You ever had orange banana?
No.
No, I'm sorry, orange chocolate. I didn't mean orange banana.
No, I
orange
never had that
chocolate.
either.
That's all you have to say about that?
Orange chocolate. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, fine.
Some people like it, Jim.
Curtis.
Some people don't.
Curtis in Boston. That's stupid. Curtis in Boston, you're next. Hi. What's up?
Hey, Jim and Margie. You guys talked about Salt and Straw, that blue cheese pear ice cream.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually incredible. I had it in Oregon years ago at Salt and Straw.
Salt and Straw. I guess they're from Oregon, but they've opened up a new branch in the Seaport, so you can go right down there and get the pear and blue cheese.
Wait a
ice
second.
cream.
Actually, I could deal with the pear thing. It actually tastes like blue cheese?
It really does. Cheese seems to be a very popular menu item now. I've recently had some goat cheese gelato. I had some Parmigiano Reggiano gelato. At first, it's so sweet and the ice cream's so cold that you just take the sweetness. And then on the finish, it tastes like when you eat a little blue cheese and it's in the back of your mouth. You get it on the finish is when you taste the cheese.
Okay,
Well, that's
what
actually a
about
good
what? They
explanation
also
of-
have the fish sauce, salted caramel. I don't know, fish sauce.
Well, you don't like fish.
On caramel.
How about that one, Curtis?
I think that'd be great because another thing that's great on ice cream is balsamic vinegar. It's that umami flavor. You get that acid, you get a little bit of that kind of, different flavor you're not expecting, maybe a saltiness or savory. It goes really well with ice cream.
Curtis, you never heard of vanilla and chocolate? Have you ever heard of that?
I'd say I do want to give a shout out Maple Valley Ice Cream. It's farm fresh.
Sure.
It's made
Oh!
in Massachusetts.
Oh! Okay.
Their chocolate peanut butter is the best chocolate
Actually,
peanut butter.
I like chocolate
hard-packed
peanut butter.
ice cream I've ever had.
Is
It's
Maple
so good.
Valley the
That
one
was an
they
excellent
sell
call.
at Wilson Farm in Lexington? I think it is. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
You can buy their pints around the city, too. They're fantastic.
It's great.
Thank you
that
for
is
that,
great
Curtis.
ice cream.
That was an excellent call with a lot of detail there, a lot of content.
Now, Deborah First, who was a food critic, she basically said she tried this this ice cream that she was waiting for at the snacks box on Newbury Street.
Yeah.
The one that was dipped in melted butter. The butter hardens into a shell, coats the frozen dessert, served with a lobster-shaped comb on a fish-shaped Japanese taiyaki cake, festooned with festival cocktail umbrellas and toothpicks dipped in little red lobsters.
And what about it?
Well, she said that it was good. She said it was delicious. So there you go. She's a food critic.
Yeah.
She ate it, and the golden peak of butter coating collapses
Well, you're a
readily
big butter
in
woman.
one's
How
mouth.
do you feel about dipping something in melted butter?
I do feel pretty good about that. I might be willing to do that.
You
Dip it
would,
in
under appropriate circumstances?
You can never go wrong with butter. She says it has a waxy, soft texture against the cool, smooth ice cream. The salty richness and creamy sweetness play well together.
Listen to this text before we talk to Edgar. Can you please keep making Jamie laugh? It's making my day.
I know. Jamie's got a great laugh.
But you know what the problem is? You don't know if Jamie really thinks what's being said is funny or he's just trying to be supportive of two people who are sinking quickly. Is that not the feeling you sometimes get?
Let's play this. Would you have time to play this clip from
Very
SNL?
briefly, Edgar's
I hope it's a
waiting.
good one.
Very briefly.
Okay, here's a clip from the 2022 SNL skit about a focus group for Blue Bunny ice cream.
Here it is.
What do you think of the peanut brittle pie?
It's, how do I say this? Remember when you'd be down by the pond all day with your hands cupped, trying to catch just one stupid little tadpole? And then Scooter's mama, the one with the pretty teeth and eyes like butter, would invite you inside for a whole bowl of Rocky Road. This is that.
Okay.
Hey, I just taste ice cream. Am I doing this wrong?
You know that was Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Hey, Edgar.
Yeah.
What's your ice cream preference?
This it really doesn't really matter what my preference is. This is an opportunity for me to beat a drum on something which is a pet peeve of mine, which is the fact that vanilla is a flavor. So a lot of people besmirch vanilla, or sort of like the underlying assumption is like if you make ice cream, it's just going to taste like vanilla. It's not. Vanilla itself is a flavor and a delicious one.
A noble one.
Yeah,
I would
it's not
add.
plain.
Absolutely.
It's a flavor. It's vanilla flavor.
Vanilla
Edgar,
flavor.
Since that was such an incredibly insightful comment, can I ask you something? Would you not agree that some people like vanilla
and some people
don't like
don't?
vanilla?
Yeah, no, I mean, that is true. Some people like it and some people don't.
Exactly.
All right. What are you doing with the Curiosity Show?
Well, today we've got our Ask the Gardener segment. So the
Oh,
phone lines are
good.
going to be open. It has been hot. We're in a drought. I think people have a lot of questions about how to manage the heat with their plants and their food and all of that stuff, especially if you're trying to grow vanilla. So give us a call. We're gonna be doing that today. Yeah, phone lines are going to be open, so we're excited about it.
Well, maybe I can call with some of my questions. I have many questions.
You do.
What do you do in the hot weather when a
Indeed.
drought and plants will die without the water, right?
Wow. Great
Okay.
question.
Thank you very much for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. Thanks to everyone who came down to the Boston
you all.
Public Library.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much. You can keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined by political commentator Chuck Dodd. I can't wait to talk to him about this mess we're in, like it's corruption central. Former Public Safety Secretary Andrew Cabral, environmentalist Bill McKibben, NPR's Eric Deggans on the legacy of Stephen Colbert. I believe Colbert's last show is tomorrow night. We want to thank our great crew, Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Ariana Gonzalez, our engineer John, Claude Parker, our executive producer Jane Baloney. He's the one with a great laugh. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Maddie Guy, Patrick Lally, Juan Jose Cadena, our host at the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. The Curiosity Desk with Edgar and all your gardening questions starts as soon as we are done here on 89.7 GBH. The Culture Show with Jared Bowen starts at 2, live from the Boston Public Radio studio with Mass Arts' Mary Grant and Ryan Edwards of Massery Studios, joining them to discuss a proposal to turn the Tobin Bridge into a public art place responding to tides and coastal patterns.
Yikes.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I think.
Yeah.
Listen.
Okay.
Some people would support that, and others, you never know.
You just don't
that's
know.
my take on it.
Everyone can make their own choice.
They
Jim.
could.
It's the United
And I
States of
respect
America. We
people
can
on both
still
sides.
do that. We can still make our own choices. But better make a choice today, because tomorrow may be all over.
It may be.
I'm Marjorie Egan.
Jim Browdy.
Thank you for tuning in
Bye.
today. Hope you can tune in tomorrow. Have a great
See ya.
afternoon.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Harvard Museums of Science and Culture. 4 museums a short walk from Harvard Square, with exhibits ranging from stunning glass flowers to ancient Egyptian mummy cases. Learn more at hmsc.harvard.edu.
And the Boston Speakers Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, financial journalist Andrew Ross Sorkin, and former NASA head Charles Bolden. bostonspeakers.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, concurrent walkways. That's urban design lingo for when cars get their green light at the exact same time as the pedestrian walk sign lights up. Now, unless you've had a close call, nearly getting hit when you try to cross, or nearly hitting someone in your car, it might not have crossed your mind why the system is how it is. And speaking of things we never consider, the division of standards, a whole government operation, making sure that the scales at Stop and Shop are accurate and that businesses know what to do when they run out of pennies. Then from pennies to perennials, it's Ask the Gardener. Put that black thumb of yours to use and call in with your spring gardening questions. Anything from sunlight or watering tips to which plants are the most resistant to dog pee. It's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The Justice Department is expected to unseal charges today against former Cuban President Raul Castro. They're tied to the 1996 shootdown of 2 civilian planes flown by a Miami-based exile group. Ahead of the expected announcement, Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued a message marking Cuban Independence Day. NPR's Ada Peralta reports from Miami.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Cuba is suffering not because of a U.S. blockade, but because their government has placed the good of a few insiders ahead of the good of the Cuban people. Rubio said the only thing in the way of a better future for Cuba is the people who control their country. If owning your own business and having the right to vote is possible outside Cuba, he said, why is it not possible for you inside Cuba? Rubio spoke as the Justice Department prepared to announce an indictment against former Cuban President Raul Castro. Cuba has said the U.S. is simply trying to justify an illegal and inhumane military intervention against Cuba. Ada Peralta, NPR News, Miami.
President Trump is delivering the commencement address at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in Connecticut today. During his speech, Trump again pointed to the war in Iran.
Everything's gone. Their Navy's gone. Their Air Force is gone. Just about everything. The only question is, do we go and finish it up, or are they going to be signing a document? Let's see what happens.
Trump says Tehran is now facing a choice between reaching an agreement with the U.S. or risking further action. 2 police officers who helped defend the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th insurrection are suing over a new $1.7 billion settlement fund. The officers want to block anyone involved in the riot from receiving money through the program, which compensates people claiming they were politically targeted by prosecutors. The NAACP is calling on black athletes to withhold support from public universities and states that are rolling back voting rights. NPR's Kristen Wright reports the request comes after a U.S. Supreme Court decision that weakened the Voting Rights Act.
The NAACP is urging black athletes who are being recruited by public universities in states weakening the power of black voters to not commit to going to those schools until those state governments restore fair congressional maps. The civil rights group is targeting 8 states in the South where major college football and basketball programs made up of mostly black players rake in big money. The NAACP is also asking college athletes to elevate the issue and call on leaders to speak out against racial redistricting. It's also urging alumni, donors, and fans to withhold financial support. Several Republican-led states are racing to redraw congressional districts in an effort to flip seats, effectively diluting black voting power. Kristen Wright, NPR News.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon with the latest from the GBH newsroom in Boston. I'm Craig Lamolt. Harvard faculty have overwhelmingly passed a new cap on the number of A's they can give out. From our higher ed desk, GBH's Kirk Carapezza reports the goal is to restore some meaning to the letter grades.
At Harvard, more than half of all grades awarded to undergraduates last year were A's, up from just a quarter 2 decades ago. Now the number of grades in any given course will be limited to the top 20% or so of students. Government professor Stephen Levitsky supports the change. He says the status quo rewarded different levels of work with the same grade.
Students who work their tails off and really do outstanding work get the same grade as students who are smart and know how to BS their way through an essay and do good but not great work.
Critics argue the cap assumes only a limited number of students can produce outstanding work. The new policy takes effect in fall 2027. Kirk Carapezza, GBH News.
Boston Mayor Michelle Wu and other city leaders are rolling out a safety plan aimed at curbing possible spikes in violence this summer. The city wants to prevent violence, get guns off the street, and address safety and quality of life concerns like illegal street races and loud parties. Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox says as summer begins, they often see more issues in daylight hours.
Sometimes people's fuses can be a little shorter than normal, or added frustrations and conflicts in general. To prevent and solve criminal activity, we must participate in public safety together.
Cox is also urging the public to do their part and call 911 if they see anything suspicious. This is GBH.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Welcome to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. So, have you ever been about to cross the street and then had to contend with cars trying to turn right while you've got a walk signal? Or maybe you've been on the other side of this equation, behind the steering wheel, taking a right-hand turn. You've got the green, only to have to swerve because a pedestrian is trying to cross at the same time. Well, Curiosity Desk listener Sarah in Beverly sure has, and she recently reached out to ask us about it.
I noticed that pedestrians have walk signs that align with my green light so that I'm stopping at a green light to wait for pedestrians to cross before I can go. I'd love to understand if this is on purpose, and if so, why?
Well, it turns out there is a name for this. It is called a concurrent walkway. And good timing with your question, Sarah, because as fate would have it, concurrent walkways are the focus of new reporting by one of our colleagues here in the newsroom. In studio with us now is that colleague, Meghan Smith, a senior digital producer on the Equity and Justice team for GBH News. And joining her with us in studio is Casandra Xavier, who is featured in Meghan's story and is a North End resident and disability rights advocate. Meghan, good to have you back.
Hello, great to be here.
Cassandra, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Well, you don't have to be honored. We're honored. We're honored to have you, but thank you. So, Meghan, I want to start with you. So this phenomenon of concurrent walkways, these signals kind of coming on at the same time. What's going on here?
I know, right? It's funny. I have lived in Boston for so long as a pedestrian and experienced this a lot, but I had never heard that phrase before, concurrent signaling. I heard about it at a disability event a few weeks ago. It's actually a very widespread, common tactic that cities use all over the country, all over Massachusetts. It's pretty widespread, and it's kind of I hear from city planners, it's like a tug of war between safety and efficiency. And one of the reasons they have it is to reduce traffic congestion. If pedestrians had to wait for their own signal every single time at every single intersection, city planners say it would slow down traffic and pedestrians would have to wait so long. And the data shows that a lot of pedestrians just wouldn't wait long. They would just walk anyway. They would go anyway. Yeah, so it's a bit. It sounds counterintuitive, but the defense of it is that it's a safety reason and it would just slow everything down. Now, in the city of Boston, about 2/3 of intersections have what they call exclusive phasing, which means
Wait, slow down. Exclusive phasing.
I know it's a lot of
but
a lot of traffic lingo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exclusive meaning Cars get a red light, all of them, and then you walk as a pedestrian. You're the only one in the crosswalk that has the right of way, as opposed to concurrent, where you have a walk signal and a car might have a green, and turning left on green, or they might be even turning right on red. And now there's also something called LPIs, leading pedestrian intervals, which means pedestrians will basically get a head start on their signal. They'll get 3 to 5 seconds to get out into the crosswalk sooner, meaning hopefully the cars see them better. About 5% of intersections have that, and the city says they're hoping to implement more of those. However, obviously, for this story, I'm talking about people who are maybe can't see, can't hear, they might have mobility challenges, they might use a walker or a wheelchair, and they can't run in and out of a crosswalk as easily, can't see or hear the turning cars. So it is, in this community, it's a challenge and a frustration for them.
Well, Casandra, maybe you can talk a little bit about your situation and the challenge and the frustration you do or don't face when it comes to something like concurrent signaling.
As a person with a dual sensory loss, having to deal with concurrent signaling, I find it to be rather frustrating, and it's actually scary because you're, always with anxiety and always on edge when you have to cross the street. And even if you do have the right of way to cross, the concurrent crossings make it nearly impossible to get across safely without, you're never going to get across the street without having an almost near miss, which I have had. And I was able to grab footage of that near miss that I had. One of the many of them. And
you said many of them.
Yes.
And you avoid certain intersections, right? I mean, I know you rely on your memory a lot when walking around, but
yes.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate to have access to a really, really great certified orientation and mobility specialist from the Agency for the Blind, who helped me create memory and pathways to be able to get around in my environment safely. And had it not been for access to much needed services, after all, traveling probably would not have been something I would be interested in doing independently at all.
Wow, yeah. So as you point out, you sort of have dual sensory loss. So you said you're blind, but also have you can't hear as well. Is that it?
Correct. I have bilateral hearing loss from birth. I wear a high-powered Bluetooth hearing aid in my left ear. My right ear is completely deaf since birth. There's nothing that can be done or a cochlear implant that would allow me to ever hear out of it. So my left ear is what I depend on to the best that, the hearing aid can. Hearing aids are not designed to fix. It can help, and it's clearly in the term hearing aid. It can help, but it won't fix what's gone. Or what was never there. So there's still significant challenges of sound direction, being able to localize sound when there is unilateral hearing. And that is why, there's always a lot of anxiety about street crossings. And, you can have the best mobility training in the whole wide world. And just one near miss can literally swipe all of that away.
Yeah. You listen to the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with GBH's Meghan Smith and disability rights advocate Casandra Xavier about whether there maybe is a better system for our crosswalks and traffic lights. Meghan, take us into your reporting for this story. I mean, you walked around the North End with Casandra. What did you learn? What hadn't you considered about the difficulties of navigating Boston with dual sensory loss?
Yeah, Casandra invited me to take a walk around. I think we walked for about an hour around North End, downtown, last week.
That's a long walk.
It was, but you're a walker. You love to walk, right?
I'm an avid walker, and you guys may not be able to see, but I have on Hokas.
Yeah.
Instead of fancy dress shoes, because I would prefer to preserve my ankles.
Yeah.
with the
That's
infrastructure
what
of the
real
city.
walkers wear. That's what
city
real
walkers.
walkers wear.
We stopped by Dunkin'. You got an iced coffee.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The
we had
iconic iced coffee.
We had a nice afternoon. It was interesting to me to just realize almost a sensory overload the downtown city streets are. There's just so much going on at every moment. And it was interesting to walk along with Casandra and see the things that are helping her. Like there are things like
like what are some of the things that are sort of out there, pieces of infrastructure that are out there that do help?
Yeah, there's lots of things that helping. I would encourage people to look at this next time they're out. All of the crossing signals have a vibrating feature where you can rest your hand on it, and that is a way that you can be signaled to be able to cross or not. So I know, Casandra, you use that.
Yes.
There's curb cuts, which is a very big accessibility thing where it's a gradual ramp onto the street, onto the crosswalk, so that helps with wheelchairs, strollers, etc. And a lot of intersections have that yellow, I don't know what like a yellow plastic pad. Is there a name for that?
The proper terminology for that would be called intruncated domes.
Ah, okay.
And is that you can feel that on your feet? Is that
your cane,
you could feel it with your feet as well as with your cane.
Yeah. So Casandra, you can explain how you use a white cane and to feel what's coming ahead of you as you walk.
Yeah, tell us about that, Casandra.
Yeah. So as I was trained by my mobility instructor, using the white cane and always having your cane extended, and it allows your cane to detect objects. So even if you hear a cane clanging against something, that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Don't be alarmed because you heard the cane hit something. That's what it's designed for. And it feels the intruncated domes on the ground, and that lets a user know, hey, you're approaching the edge of the street, stop, and now it's time to wait for the chance to analyze the intersection for safe street crossing.
Yeah, that's cool. How I mean, in terms of the learning curve for learning to use the cane and how sensitive it gets, like, are you like a master at it now? Like you could feel, you're like, that's a blade of grass and I can feel it.
Well, not necessarily a blade of grass, but like a patch of grass. Yeah. But I've become really, really comfortable with using a cane. I've never had any resistance to using a cane. In fact, I had my cane as my superpower, and it opened up so much of my traveling ability to get beyond my very limited space when I started using my cane. And it's interesting because we're here in Brighton, which is where it all began.
Wow. All right. This is the Curiosity Desk. We're talking with disability rights advocate Casandra Xavier and GBH's Meghan Smith. Casandra, I wonder, are there changes you would like to see? Is there like low-hanging fruit, so to speak, from your position where you say, like, here's some things I would like to see the city address or change that would make an immediate impact on the way you're able to move around and move through the city?
What I would like to see change, and I don't speak just for myself, I speak with the disability community. Not for, but with. We collectively would like for the concurrent street crossings to actually not be a thing.
Go away completely.
Totally. So that even people without disabilities may be affected by that. And it takes away the dignity of someone who's worked so hard to learn how to travel in their environment, to rely on multiple people who can also be affected by these concurrent street crossings. And it's just mind-boggling why those things still exist in this day and age, and why did they even start in the first place?
We have some sound from a senior traffic engineer with the City of Boston responding to some resident concerns around concurrent signaling at a Disability Commission Advisory Board meeting. This was just last week. Let's hear a little here.
What we've also learned from just looking at the crash data, there is not a clear pattern of where you see crashes sort of in relation to what pedestrian phasing there is. In looking at some of the latest Vision Zero portal data, if we have to drive up the cycle length and the delay is really long for pedestrians, folks just refuse to wait.
So, Meghan, in your reporting, sort of where is the city at with this? Is this something where they're like, this is not a problem? Are they looking at it? Is anybody looking at it? Where's the sort of city's position on this right now?
Yeah, I mean, that meeting was a little bit, there was some contention there with another deafblind city resident who brought up the concurrent signaling challenge, actually, Carl Richardson, if you know him.
Yeah.
But no, the city isn't budging. I mean, they have given no indication that they are going to do away with concurrent signaling. One of the city councilors, Ed Flynn, has actually been a pretty big advocate of this. He's tried to pass resolutions. He's tried to bring it to attention to the city officials, especially this past winter during the snowstorm. You know, snowbanks makes this all more challenging, but there isn't an indication that they're moving. But in that meeting, they did say that they're hopefully going to increase the number of LPI intersections.
That's the leading pedestrian
right,
interval.
to give you a heads up or a head start.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if disability advocates feel like that's the right solution or enough.
Cassandra's shaking her head no.
Yeah.
So that's a big no from you.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of the wintertime, how much how much more of a challenge is it getting around for you in the wintertime versus when there's not snow on the ground? Is it a big difference? That sounds like a yes.
With the already inaccessible infrastructure of the city as a whole, and then adding the snow, it is infuriating. I detest when winter comes because I know that the community of folks with disabilities are never going to be considered in thought when they are doing things. And that's the reason why, you know, I was very happy to be a part of that snow removal hearing, because the ADA, which is known as the Americans with Disabilities Act, has been around for 35 plus years. Why are we still fighting over the most basic thing still? The ADA is about as old as me. I'm 36 years old. So,
yeah.
And I'm going to always say this again. The best way someone could understand how we feel as an entire community of persons with disabilities and elderly is if they experience that themselves. And I kindly and respectfully would invite Mayor Wu and Governor Healy to come and do a site visit during the winter after a terrible blizzard so that they could see exactly how it feels. And we're not complaining. We are speaking up for our basic rights to be respected, because as persons with disabilities, we're human too. And, as a friendly reminder, anyone could acquire a disability to where they would need a mobility device at some point in life. And as you grow older, you acquire a disability with age. You're not going to always be young forever.
Yeah.
So consider that as well as, you make these decisions to ignore us. Think about how it's going to affect you later in life. Or someone you care about in your close circle. But yeah, I would like to see how the governor and the mayor would handle being inconvenienced by the infrastructure of the city.
All right. We're going to leave it there. We've been speaking with Meghan Smith, a senior digital producer on the Equity and Justice team for GBH News, and disability rights advocate Casandra Xavier. Thank you both for being with us on the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you for having me.
And our thanks again to Sarah in Beverly for her question that inspired this segment. What is yours? We've got a pretty easy to fill out form on our webpage at gbh.org. Tell us what you are curious about. There's no question too big, no question too small, and no question too strange. Just ahead, if you've ever been suspicious of a grocery store scale or worried about being ripped off at the gas pump, beyond the insane prices, you've got someone in your corner. The State Division of Standards. We'll talk with the unsung hero and civic servant in the building. Let's get it. This is the Curiosity Desk. Stick around.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, could the Tobin Bridge become a bridge to the future? We look at a proposal to turn its dull expanse of steel into an interactive artwork, lit by tides and changing coastal conditions, and casting a light on climate change. Then Boston's music history hits the road as Soundscape Tours expands, with a new bus ride through the city's musical past. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov.
And New England Recovery Center, providing inpatient addiction treatment in state-of-the-art facilities located in Westboro, Mass. Learn more at newenglandrecoverycenter.org or by calling 1-877-MY-REHAB.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Why don't you join us there? You know, there are so many government services that go unappreciated, misunderstood, or taken for granted. Well, here at the Curiosity Desk, we're trying to do something about that. Recently, a government department known as the Division of Standards made some news when they issued new guidance for businesses on the subject of penny rounding. Pennies, of course, ceased production in November. Now businesses are starting to have trouble making change and making sense. Enter our next guest, Dave Rodrigues, Commissioner of the Massachusetts Division of Standards, which deals with pennies, yes, but so much more, including something in Ashland called the Metrology Lab. Commissioner Rodrigues, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Edgar, great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we will get into the Metrology Lab and what that's all about shortly, but let's talk about pennies out of the gate. So, as we said, pennies have ceased production. You can still use pennies. They're still out there, but no new pennies are being made, and now we're starting to see that have an impact in some places around here because there's not as many as there used to be. Is that generally right?
Yeah, you may have seen the signs at CVS, at other stores saying that we're rounding up, we're rounding down about this, just because there's a lack of pennies that are out there in the world right now. People hold pennies a lot. Everybody's got that jar at home where they have tons and tons of pennies. And we started to get a lot of questions about how that affects pricing and how it affects the price of individual items. So we thought it would be helpful that if we issued a little bit of guidance and kind of help people go along the way about how to handle the penny rounding issue specifically at stores.
So what's the important stuff people ought to know about the guidance and where it stands now?
So the most important part is that there's nothing stopping a store from rounding.
So they can round up or down.
Yeah, up or down to the nearest 0 or 5 is generally what we're seeing. And there's no law that tells you how to do that. There's some pending legislation up there, which we're, of course, supportive of. It gives a little bit more firmer guidance on that. But in the meantime, as that works its way through the process, we wanted to make sure that people understood that it shouldn't affect the underlying cost of the item. So if you see something for 99 cents, it's still 99 cents when you buy it. No, any rounding would happen at the aggregate, the total transaction after sales tax.
Okay.
And just to get it there, just to get it to that 0 or 5 so the retailer can make change.
But again, if it, let's say it comes out to $10.01, there's no requirement that because it's only 1 cent, it go down to 10. It could go to 10.05. That's at the discretion of the retailer.
It is, and there's nothing stopping them from doing that currently. The legislation would remedy that. We're leaving it to the store to make the best choice for their business.
Okay.
And that's it. If they have pennies, they should make exact change. And what we say is that if you're going to do this, make it as clear as possible to the consumer. Let them know ahead of time in multiple languages what to expect when they're buying something, and also give them an alternative form of payment if they can do that. If they want to, somebody doesn't want to round,
like
they say
electronic payment of some sort, your card.
I don't want to round. I want to use my credit card instead. I want to use my debit card. Give them that option that's there, and just make sure that everything's clear for the consumer and never touch the price of the underlying item. There is in Massachusetts the Massachusetts Price Accuracy Guarantee that says if you see something on this that it's labeled as a price on the shelf, and this applies to grocery items, is that if that displayed price doesn't match up with the checkout price, if it's $10 or under, you get that item for free.
Yeah, that's I mean, you have a great social media presence, and you do these like little informational videos, which we love. And one of those addressed that. That is one that I had never heard of. So So if it's $10 or under, you just get it for free if they don't give
if
you
it doesn't
the
ring
lowest
up right,
rate.
plus or minus. So even if you're getting
It's
it
unbelievable.
still gets. That's an incentive, and that's kind of an economic disincentive for retailers to make sure that their prices are accurate. One of the main missions of the Division of Standards is to make sure that people can know what to expect when we walk into a store in terms of pricing, and that those prices are accurate. That's value. That helps affordability. That helps competitiveness. It helps a lot of things. It checks a lot of boxes for the consumer and retailers.
So as we said, the Division of Standards, and as you just pointed out, I mean, it's not just about pennies. It's not just about guidance and pennies. Give us a sense of what are you doing? Like, what standards fall under your purview?
Yeah, it's a perfectly named agency, because what we do is we don't set the standards, we apply the standards. And so if you think about that, if you ever go to a gas pump or you buy something at a deli, you have to have the confidence that a gallon is a gallon, a pound is a pound, an ounce is an ounce. What we do is that we have the tools, and that we, through the State Metrology Lab and through traceability through the National Institute of Standards and Technology, to have the tools to make sure that scale is accurate, that gas pump is accurate, that jeweler's scale and that pharmacy scale is accurate, that cannabis scale, making sure that those things are accurate to make sure that you are getting what you're paying for when you're buying something by weight or measure.
So how do you? I hear you say this. First of all, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, oh my God, it's amazing that there's somebody out there who's like looking out for all this stuff. And then the second thing that comes to my mind is, how does anybody possibly look out for all of this stuff? I mean, if you actually stop and think about the number of times in a day, even just a single grocery store visit, right? How many times are you using different scales when you're like weighing all kinds of stuff? Like, how do you pull it off? How do you do it?
Yeah, we have a great team at the Division of Standards. We have a number of compliance officers and supervisors that are out there testing. In 2025, we tested and sealed over 25,000 devices across Massachusetts. And we're supported by local sealers of weights and measures that are there. There's over 150 of them that are working in cities and towns all the way across Massachusetts, and we support them, and we're there as a resource for them. But they're out there every day doing this very quiet, very competent work. And we like to make the joke that people take us for granted, and that's how we like it.
Yeah.
Is that if you don't notice that, that means that's
the
perfect.
thing about refs, right?
Yeah.
They say like if you're not thinking about the refs, then they're doing a good job.
Yeah, it's like food at a wedding. If you're talking about food at a wedding, it was bad. So you either want to never think about it again, and we want to be those folks that are just quietly competent and give folks the confidence that every time they buy something, it's what they're paying for.
What are the types of sort of like backgrounds and education and expertise like on the range of the team that you're talking about?
Yeah, there's no clear through line to becoming a weights and measures guy.
It's like it's not a major in most schools.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't grow up. I didn't grow up being in third grade saying, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And going, "I want to be the Commissioner of Standards." It wasn't that through line for me. You kind of find your way to it, and that's a common story with my colleagues in other states and other jurisdictions, that they kind of find themselves in it. Even the state metrologists, we have two really talented individuals that are out there running the state metrology lab that are great, and they kind of find their way to it, and they take to it, and they care about it, and it's very nuanced. And love the fact that we get in the weeds. I love nerding out with other nerds about nerdy stuff. And this is great because we really get into the weeds. We really think about and we unpack these issues, and we really have the opportunity to do that. I make the joke all the time, and my team is getting sick of me hearing it, but there's never been a weights and measures emergency. It's never happened. But that's an opportunity for us to be really thoughtful and deliberate and get into the weeds and do it the right way. So we do that every day on behalf of the consumers and retailers.
A lot of fastidious, detail-oriented people.
You wouldn't believe it. Yeah, you wouldn't believe some. We have really in-depth conversations about stuff that you would not think that we have in-depth conversations about.
So good. This is Dave Rodrigues. He's the commissioner of the Massachusetts Division of Standards. Well, tell us a little bit more about the State Metrology Lab.
So first off, it has nothing to do with the weather.
Okay,
so that's the number
it's
one.
Not meteorology.
No, yeah,
it's what is metrology?
Metrology is the science of measuring things.
Okay,
so we literally
like metric
metrology, and so Massachusetts operates what's known as an Echelon 3 certified metrology lab.
Echelon 3.
Echelon 3.
Do you want to be Echelon 3 or do you want to be Echelon 2 or 1? Like, do you want to be higher or lower on the echelon?
So Echelon, it's about what you can certify and what you can calibrate there. So we do field standards there. So think about if we're testing a scale, we have to know that the weight that we're putting on there is 10 pounds, 5 pounds, 1 pound, 1 ounce. We have to know that. in the state metrology lab, we can calibrate that. And if somebody brings in their weights, either it's a local sealer of weights and measures or one of our compliance officers, we can know whether that weight is what it's supposed to be.
You weigh the weight.
We weigh the weights.
You weigh the weights.
Yeah.
Well, who weighs your weights that are weighting the weights?
It's a great question, and it's all about traceability. And you have to go to a higher lab than yours to do that.
So you go to an echelon 4?
No, so
echelon
we go to echelon 2 or 1. There's only 2 echelon 1 labs in the entire country. One's in Oklahoma, one's in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow. Do you have to take your stuff there every once in a while to calibrate your stuff?
So we can trace it back through.
I see.
All the way through. And we have national standards that are there that are located through the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. The Office of Weights and Measures, great partners with us. We pressure test a lot of our ideas and a lot of our programs with them, just to make sure that we have certificates of traceability. We can bring it all the way back. And it used to be that you could trace your weights all the way back to the original kilogram weight that's still located in the Louvre.
Right.
That you can bring it all the way back.
Yeah,
you have to start somewhere.
Certified by certified by certified.
Yeah, so
by,
as long as you can trace it back, and there's always a margin of error there. That's within a tolerance.
Yeah,
that's
a window of tolerance is a term I've heard. It's within the window of tolerance.
Yep, and every no device is perfect, so you got to make sure that it's within a window of tolerance. And especially as we're starting to dip into new technologies, especially electric vehicle charging systems, the window of tolerance is always something that's up for debate. What is an acceptable tolerance for a device, plus or minus, for either you're giving or you're taking?
Yeah.
And that very rarely are you going to get something that's completely 100% accurate.
Right. So we got a question from a listener, Patricia in Canton, and you feel like the right person to ask about this. So I'm going to tee this question up for you. So this Patricia in Canton wrote into us, when I fuel up at the gas station, the pump starts charging as soon as I depress the gas hose handle, but I don't hear gas gurgling in the hose until about 50 cents is rung up. Am I being charged 50 cents for the air being displaced by gas that is just pumped from the underground storage tank into the hose, or is gas really flowing and I'm just not hearing it?
That's a great question. I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't know the answer to that question. I had to ask one of my team.
Oh, really?
One of my really talented team that I have out there, what the answer to the question was. There should never be air in the hose. It should never be there. What essentially is happening is that you're getting the gas that was pumped previously, and you're leaving behind gas for the next person.
Oh,
so it's always there. So you are getting the meter is located at the pump site. You are getting that gas. So there should never ever be air in the hose. If you think you're being mischarged, or you think you're getting shorted, or you think the pump is not just working right, there is, on every single pump, there should be a number that says, call us. We'll come and check it out. We do it all the time, just to make sure. And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's giving, sometimes it's taking. We want to make sure it's right. But everybody, Patricia can rest assured, she's getting the gas. There should never be air in that. What she's probably hearing are the vapors escaping from her own gas tank that are there. Gas is pushing out air from her own gas tank.
All right, before I let you go, my producers are saying that you were listening earlier and you have some thoughts about the ice cream conversation.
I have very strong opinions about the ice cream debate.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no,
this
vanilla
is,
is absolutely a flavor.
There you go.
I'm just befuddled by that take. Vanilla is a ride or die flavor for sure.
And are you a fan of vanilla?
Of course. Yeah. How can you not be a fan of vanilla? I mean, I live really close to Richardson's Ice Cream in Middleton.
There you go.
And that is just the absolute go-to. Vanilla and any other derivatives from that are perfect.
And when I go to the grocery store around here, I suppose I know if the bottle says it has X number of ounces of vanilla, you're the guy who's going to make sure that is exactly.
We do that with ice cream. We do it with tuna fish. We do it with Splenda packets. You tell it if you think you're getting mistreated as a consumer, you call us and we'll help you get it figured out.
All right, there you go. That's Dave Rodrigues, Commissioner of the Massachusetts Division of Standards. Commissioner Rodrigues, thank you so much for being here.
Edgar, thank you so much.
All right, folks, if you're looking for some gardening advice, don't go barking up the wrong tree. We are going to be taking your calls and texts just ahead for our Ask the Gardener segment, so stick around. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH.
Listen to be immersed.
Some Salvadorian rum. Some horchata.
Listen to be transported.
After a 3-hour flight, you land in Guantanamo.
Flight attendants prepare for arrival.
Listen to get perspective.
And if that's what mattered, what didn't matter? What was just noise?
Listen to All Things Considered from NPR News.
This afternoon at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And GM Roth Design Remodeling, providing custom kitchens, bathrooms, and accessory dwelling units. Their design team works to create living-in-place solutions tailored to the needs of each home and family. More information at gmroth.com. And Harvard Museums of Science and Culture, 4 museums a short walk from Harvard Square, with exhibits ranging from stunning glass flowers to ancient Egyptian mummy cases. Learn more at hmsc.harvard.edu.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, it is that time again. Ask the Gardener is back, and we are taking your calls and texts. The number, 877-301-8970, whether you're desperately trying to keep your plants alive through this May heat or trying to find dog pee-resistant plants for your garden. Yes, somebody texted about that last time, so maybe we'll get into that. We've got you covered. Once again, that number, 877-301-8970. And here to field all of your questions and concerns, we are joined once again by Deb Merriam, Executive Director of the Wakefield Arboretum. Deb, thanks for joining us. Great to have you back.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So let's start with the weather. It is obviously very hot outside. Also, we were talking about this on the show yesterday. We're in a drought of some form or fashion everywhere in the state.
Yes.
So how should I be thinking about managing things right now?
Well, what our approach at the Arboretum is to sort of be proactive in watering. So basically what we're focusing is watering all of the plants that have been planted in the last 2 years.
Okay.
With most of the attention being paid to plants that we just planted this spring. So we're
order of operation is newest in the ground. That's the one you gotta, that's the one you need to put the most attention on.
Exactly. But you can't forget about those plants that you planted in the fall or even last year. So all of our young plants we focus on. But we're also, this is the drought is already pretty bad. So we're also watering older plants or plants that might be more susceptible to drought conditions. So we're keeping an eye on those as well.
Okay. Again, just want to say the number's 877-301-8970. If you've got a question, a gardening question, a planting question, we've got Deb Merriam, Executive Director of the Wakefield Arboretum, with us to take your questions and calls. So let's start with this question we got last time, which was, hi, do you have any recommendations for plants that are resistant to dog pee? I guess they have plants that are getting killed when their dog's peeing on them, or somebody's neighborhood dog is peeing on them.
Yeah, that's a great question. I live in the city, and so a lot of people put little signs around plants that they don't want dogs to pee on. But woody plants are probably more tolerant of dog urine or any kind of urine for that matter than non-woody plants. So you might want to think about planting shrubs and trees if you have the space for them.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, if it's repetitive, I don't know if there are many plants that can really take that for a long time.
Yeah, it's just not good for them.
Yeah, not good for plants.
So it sounds like the best course of action is put a sign up that says, keep your dogs away from here.
Yeah, or a fence or something like that. That might be helpful. Yeah.
So Wakefield Arboretum, what's life like there right now at this time of year?
So we've got a lot of plants blooming, the azaleas and the lilacs, and we are known for our Coosa dogwood trees. So
Coosa dogwood trees. So
yes.
what's a Coosa dogwood as opposed to some other dogwood?
Our native dogwood is the Cornus florida, and Cornus Coosa is non-native. It's native to Asia. And so the native dogwood flowers first and then leaves out. And the Coosa dogwoods leaf out first and then their flowers come. So by next week, they're just starting to come out now. We have our Dogwood Days Festival from May 30th through June 7th.
Oh, Dogwood Days.
It's very special, and we have more than 300 Coosa dogwoods, and when they're in bloom, they are actually just really fantastic to see.
That's awesome. Around these parts, you say Arboretum, I think a lot of people think Arnold Arboretum, right?
Yes.
Do you have beef with them? Is it competitive? Are the area Arboretums competitive with each other or not really?
No, actually we work together, and the thing about the Arnold is that Polly, Mary's nickname, Polly Wakefield, who established the Arboretum, took classes there for 40 years. So she got a lot of her experience from the Arnold, and she also collected a lot of plant material from the Arnold as well. So most arboretums we work together. We trade ideas, we trade plants, and it's very convivial.
That's good. That's great to hear. All right. This is Ask the Gardener. We've got Deb Merriam, Executive Director of the Wakefield Arboretum, with us. Take your calls. We're going to go to the phones now. We've got Danielle in Bolton. Danielle, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. Go ahead and ask the gardener.
Yes, I have some roses on my garden, but I can't use rose shield. I try to order them, but they don't deliver from Massachusetts because Massachusetts doesn't allow them. And I wanted to ask the garden lady, what should I use to substitute that?
Okay, so you have roses, and what is it that you can't use?
Yeah.
Rose shield?
Yes.
And is that a fertilizer of some sort, or what is the rose shield? Okay.
The rose shield is to protect the white stuff on the leaves.
Okay, so you're getting white stuff. So you don't want to get black and white stuff on the leaves of the roses.
Right.
Generally,
Yes.
and okay. So how to keep the roses healthy? So
Healthier.
what's a good way to keep roses healthy?
The first thing is to make sure that you did your spring cleaning and pruning out, and make sure there are no dead leaves underneath the roses, and that you've. I'm not really clear why you can't use this particular product.
Is there a reason, Danielle? Why can't you use it?
Well, what I found out is that they don't allow it to ship in Massachusetts because it goes down.
Okay. So you're not allowed to get it shipped into Massachusetts because it's designed as it's designated as caustic in some way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I would look into using something that's organic, some organic rose feed. But we actually don't feed our roses very much. We just make sure that they're well mulched and well watered, and that they've been pruned out. And always keep an eye on them. We're very proactive when it comes to sort of checking our plants on a weekly basis, so that way you can catch things early or before they happen.
All right, Danielle. Sound good? You think hopefully that helps. Good luck with the roses.
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right. We are in our Ask the Gardener segment with Deb Merriam from the Wakefield Arboretum. We're going to stay with the phones. We've got Joe in Bolton. Joe, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. Go ahead and ask the gardener.
Yes, my question is about, I have a row of, they're tall, narrow, they look like arborvitae that were recommended to me by a landscape architect as a shield against the traffic. I live right on a very busy highway, and during the winter especially, they started to turn brown, and I don't know whether it's a combination of road salt and the drought or what, but they look worse almost every day, and I'm wondering if there's anything I can do to save them.
All right, can they be saved?
Well, that's so the road salt is definitely problematic for many plants, but particularly conifers, because they are leafed out in the wintertime, or they have their needles, so they really
they're pulling it up.
Exactly.
They're not dormant.
They're not dormant, and so you can try to prune it off. But that is probably, and the other thing is a lot of conifers don't regrow, especially at the base. So if they've been deer browsed or if they've been damaged by salt, they won't produce new growth. So if there is a lot of damage, even if you clean them out, they're not going to regrow. So without seeing them, it's hard to tell. But if there's not too much, I would try pruning it off.
Joe, how much brown are we talking? Are they like full on, or is it just spots?
Well, it's not full on, but it seems to be spreading, and it's mostly on the side facing the road. Now, this landscape architect said this was a salt-resistant variety, but of course we had a lot of road salt this past winter.
And we had a very, very cold winter. So even before the snow started flying, we had a really cold December, and a lot of the evergreens and conifers suffered from that without even the road salt involved. So it's probably a combination of both of those things.
All right, Joe, good luck. Maybe try cutting some of it out, and if not, it sounds like you have to have a conversation with this landscape architect who said that this was going to be salt resistant for you, but good luck to you there. So Deb, I sort of cut you off before. Tell me more about the dogwood event at the Arboretum. What happens there?
So we have all kinds of events. We have family friendly day or family day. We have sheep on the property and chickens, so we have sheep shearing. We have garden tours and all kinds of things for kids to be involved in the garden. And then this year we're trying something new. We're doing a bright botanical celebration, and we're having a bluegrass band, and people are going to be able to make their own botanical beverages.
Hey, all right. Look out now. All right. So lots of stuff happening. I assume just check your website, keep an eye on all the events happening.
WakefieldTrust.org, and there are a lot of events. You can just come and walk around, see the dogwoods and the garden. Not only are the dogwoods blooming, but a lot lot of other plant material blooming.
Yeah,
also.
but people with allergies are pretty aware that a lot of things are blooming right now.
Is popping.
We've got our gardener for Ask, the gardener Deb Merriam with us. 877-301-8970 is the number to call or text. We're going to go back to the phones. Judy in Framingham, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. Go ahead and ask the gardener.
Oh, hi, thanks. I have a question about ground cover as an alternative, a ground cover that's an alternative to grass.
Love that.
We have two big dogs, and the grass just doesn't work. And I've been told that clover is a good ground cover, and I'm wondering if that's correct or if you have a recommendation.
All right, so ground cover, non-grass ground cover, what are your recommendations?
Well, clover is pretty good. The problem is anything that's taller than, say, just grass or clover, the dogs are actually going to damage it. So if you're talking about ground covers like Vinca or Pachysandra or epimediums, things like that, the dogs are actually going to be, it's going to be problematic with dogs
because it's too high.
Because it's too high, and they're going to be running through it and tearing it up.
Is there something besides clover that is low to the ground? I mean, I see micro clover sometimes being something that is like, is micro clover a thing, or is it just clover that's small?
I'm not sure about that. Okay. It's just clover that's small.
Gotcha. Good. So, any other recommendations for ground cover that's a little closer to the ground?
To be honest with you, I think grass is probably your best bet. And then I don't know how big your space is, but what I would do to get it getting dug up is separate parts of the lawn. So the dogs have to stay off of part of the lawn for a little while and then switch it out, But beyond that, I'm not really sure what would be good besides some AstroTurf. I'm just kidding.
No AstroTurf. All right, Judy, good luck. Is there a particular kind of grass that's hardier? It's just sort of like check your local place.
Yeah, I'm not a turf professional.
Specialist, yeah. Fair enough. But there's an entire internet of information out there.
Yes. I mean, golf courses, they are the ones that have that very tough grass. And it's a perennial mix of variety of things, I think.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. Good luck, Judy, and good luck to your dogs. We got a text here. How hot is too hot for my greenhouse? It is currently 117 right now. I have a mister going to keep things moist, but do I need to be concerned about high temperature?
Yes, you do. So mostly, I worked at a greenhouse for a long time, and mostly how we kept it cool in the summertime is that you whitewash the glass. So we're going to have a hot summer, and you do not want your greenhouse that hot. So what I would do is it's just a simple process where you just take a whitewash, and it keeps the greenhouse temperature cooler.
Oh.
So I would do that. It's very easy to apply unless you have a very, very tall greenhouse.
And then does that stay on through the whole of the year?
Yeah, and then by the end it usually washes off. So
hence the name whitewash.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
The other thing is people use shade cloths, but that's we use shade cloth and the whitewash, but I always felt like the whitewash was easier to deal with.
All right, we're going to stay with the texts. We've got a text here. We have a lot of rabbits in our backyard, and they go through basically everything back there. They go and they chew around all the stems and the sticks from the shrubs. I don't think I have to go on it. I think there's a lot of people out there probably nodding their heads right now. The rabbits are munching away. Any recommendations on how to deter the rabbits safely and humanely?
Yes. So, we encourage owls and hawks in our property.
Those of us backyards, it's a little probably harder to have a hawk back there.
Yeah. So the rabbits have been particularly bad this year, and that is because rabbits don't store food in the wintertime, and we had a really harsh winter. So they could only eat what was available above the snow line. That's why they ate things that they don't normally eat, including a lot of evergreens and things. But now that they've had a taste for them, they are going back to some of the things that they enjoyed.
Yeah.
So what we found effective is we use a product called rabbit mace. It's
Mace, M-A-C-E?
M-A-C-E.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a stinky combination of things, but it seems to work quite well.
It's generally safe for them, safe for the environment?
Yeah, it's safe for the environment. It's a deterrent. It's
not going to kill them.
It's not going to kill them.
All right.
Yeah, but there has been an explosion of rabbits. That is true.
Yeah, well, they breed like rabbits. Yes. All right, we're going to go back to the phones. We've got Rosemary in Cape Cod. Rosemary, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. Go ahead and ask the gardener.
Hi. I have a very shady part of my yard that's a garden, and I've been growing hydrangeas for several years. But
You have
now
hydrangeas
it's
on
being
Cape Cod? You must be the only one. Sorry, Rosemary. Go ahead.
Okay, I know, but it's my ground. That area of the garden has now become quite the moss area, where a lot of moss is growing in the ground, in the garden space, in the border. Should I get rid of that moss, or is it a nice ground cover that might even help insulate for moisture?
Well, I actually love moss. I'm a moss fan.
I do too.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I like how it looks. Yeah.
And you know, it's not really problematic for your hydrangeas. So I would actually keep it in a part where, yeah, I would keep the moss. It looks beautiful and it's fine.
Excellent, because I like it too.
Yeah.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
All right, hydrangeas and moss sounds like a beautiful. There's
a reason
nice.
there are a lot of hydrangeas
No, I
on
know,
Cape
I
Cod.
know.
They're
I'm
beautiful.
sort of giving shade at hydrangeas a little bit there, but they are beautiful. Thank you, Rosemary, and good luck, and enjoy that moss which you get to keep. All right, we got another text here. Church has a daffodil memorial garden that was planted 3 years ago with bulbs that were supposed to naturalize. This year, for the first time, there were very few flowers. The leaves are also not abundant. They are on a northwest-facing slope. Is there anything they ought to do?
No, that sounds kind of curious. They should be fine. Daffodils are pretty tough plants. One thing that rabbits don't eat. And I talked about this last time. As long as if people are picking the flowers, that weakens the plant significantly. So that would be a problem. But otherwise, I don't know. I can't think of anything that would really impact them.
All right.
Or maybe if it's an area that gets mown, maybe they're mowing the leaves too soon. Again, we talked about that. You have to leave the leaves so the bulb builds enough power so it has flowers next time.
All right, so you could try that. We also got a text, somebody who's out in Western Massachusetts had 2 dogs and suggests zoysia, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Z-O-Y-S-I-A grass lawn. They say it's indestructible. So that's to our caller asking about something for ground cover, zoysia, or I'm probably saying that wrong, grass lawn. All right, I think we're going to try to sneak one more call in. We've got Pat in Leominster. Pat, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. Go ahead and ask the gardener.
Thank you. I have an elm tree, fairly young, 3 years old, and it has leaf gall aphids.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if that's going to affect all my other plants in my yard. I have like rhododendrons and some evergreens. And I don't know how to get rid of it.
Are you considering the elm tree a goner, and you're trying to protect it from your other? You're trying to protect the aphids from your other trees, or are you also trying to save the elm tree? Yeah. So you're okay.
Both. I'm
Both.
trying to save the elm tree, and I'm trying to protect my other plants.
All right, thanks, Pat. We're short on time. I'm going to turn to the gardener and see if we can get you an answer.
I would look into what natural product or their insecticidal soap or oil that you could use on those plants that works on aphids. And if you're willing to sacrifice the elm, you might want to do that if your other plants are more important.
Okay, well, there you have it. We've been speaking with Deb Merriam, Executive Director of the Wakefield Arboretum. Thanks to everybody who called. Sorry we couldn't get to all of those. And thank you, Deb, for being with us again on the Curiosity Desk.
You're welcome.
And now we're going to turn our attention to somebody who I know does at least a little bit of planting, and that is the one and only Jared Bowen with the Culture Show down at the Boston Public Library. Hey, Jared.
Hey, Edgar. It's true. I do a little bit of planting.
Yeah, well, you know, you gotta do at least a little. Hopefully, how are your plants doing? Everything okay right now?
I think everything is thriving.
Good.
Yeah,
Very good.
Need a little more water, and they'll be thriving even more.
Perfect. What do you got on the show today?
Well, you may have heard that there is an art installation installation plan, very much in the works, for the Tobin Bridge, which would light up the entire bridge. It's an installation called Eco Rhythms by Masari Studios, which does major projects in and around, actually all over the world at this point. And so we'll talk about this major effort that's underway.
Excellent.
Matt Bowker, who does soundscape tours, walking us through Boston's music history, is now about to take a bus. There's a bus tour that's going to go around, which is really fun, and you can hear the music and learn much more of the music history in this city that we don't necessarily realize. And then the one and only Mary Grant, president of Mass Art, is here just on the eve of commencement to talk about the graduates this year, and also a new study that shows if you engage in the arts, it will slow down your biological aging. So even more reason to listen to the Culture Show, because that is included.
Stepping into the wellness space. I love it. That's Jared Bowen, and another great one coming your way from the team at the Culture Show. Don't go anywhere. As for us, that about does it for now. The Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, Hannah Loss, and Nicole Garcia. Patty Daniels and Jamie Bologna are our show's Water and Sunlight. Our engineer, John LaClaw Parker. Special thanks to Andrew Massawa and Bill Francis. We will be right back here in 23 short hours on GBH 89.7 and streaming on YouTube. If you can't wait that long, we've got a podcast version of the show. You can check that out wherever it is you get podcasts. Until next time, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Stay cool and stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And the Boston Speaker Series, announcing its upcoming season at Symphony Hall for 7 evenings featuring Pete Buttigieg, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, war photographer Lindsay Addario, and former U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns. bostonspeakers.org.
From Idaho to Indonesia, water sustains life all over Earth. Now explore how communities are protecting the world's oceans and fresh waters. Don't miss Shared Planet tonight at 10 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show news desk, I'm Craig Lamalt. It's movie night at Symphony Hall. Tonight and tomorrow, the Boston Pops is featuring the iconic film scores of the one and only John Williams. That's everything from Star Wars to Jaws. And Pumpkins news this week. The band announced their tour dates for their upcoming Rats in the Cage tour, celebrating the 30th anniversary of the band's double album, Melancholy and Infinite Sadness. And it includes an October date at Boston's TD Garden. The Indy 500 is this Sunday, and the Grand Marshal of the event for the second year in a row is none other than Super Bowl champion and Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski. It's a natural fit for Gronk, who has said he wanted to return to the Indy 500 to keep the party going. And Lucinda Williams is playing the Chevalier Theater in Medford on Friday. She'll be touring in support of her new album called World's Gone Wrong. The New York Times recently named the 3-time Grammy winner to their list of the 30 greatest living American songwriters. They can see what's going down. That's this edition of the GBH News Culture Cast. I'm Craig Lamalt. Next up, it's The Culture Show with Jared Bowen, live at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, could the Tobin become a bridge to the future? A Boston-based new media studio is proposing an epic and arresting installation that would light the bridge in response to tides, water temperature, and other coastal patterns, turning one of the region's most visible pieces of infrastructure into a massive public artwork about climate, ecology, and the way Massachusetts sees itself. Plus, Matt Bowker of Soundscape Tours has spent years leading people on foot through Boston's music history. Now he's putting it on wheels with a new Mighty Mighty Bus tour that traces the clubs, record stores, studios, and scenes that shaped the city's sound. And it's pomp under these circumstances. Mary Grant, president of Mass Art, joins us to talk about commencement season and the future hopes, dreams, and realities facing college graduates. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's art and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 from the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. The Tobin Bridge is one of the region's most visible pieces of infrastructure, a 2-mile steel span over the Mystic River connecting Boston and Chelsea. It's a bridge that marks the region aesthetically, historically, and politically. Now Masari, the Boston-based new media collective, wants to turn the Tobin into a public artwork. Their proposed project, Eco Rhythms, would use the bridge as a canvas documenting the region's tides and coastal rhythms, all by way of light. But the idea is not simply about illuminating the bridge or turning climate data into a light show. It would also illustrate how public art can change the way we see the environment around us and the way Massachusetts sees itself. Ryan Edwards is a principal at Masari Studios, the collective behind the Tobin Bridge Eco Rhythms project. Welcome to The Culture Show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Jared.
Well, this is one where people should definitely be streaming as well so they can see what you're envisioning. Now, we should mention that this is a project that would take a lot of work and a lot of fundraising, so it would be in the future. But before we talk about that as a project, just give us a sense of Masari and the work you do, which people might also remember from Mount Auburn Cemetery and what you do with the winter solstice, but how you see light and sound and public spaces.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. Masari is a 10-year, 11-year running now studio in Boston, and sound and light are our major mediums. And we are super interested in bringing people together, helping them connect with one another, but also with architecture and space. We've done things in theaters, but so much of our work has been done in unconventional places for art. And hopefully that helps people think differently, but also see their city in a different way, see the places that they occupy differently. I think those are the things that really motivate us. Yeah.
What happens when you introduce light and sound in places that may be very, very familiar, a theater space you've been in or a park at which you've walked many times throughout many seasons, but suddenly this has changed?
Well, both sound and light, I think in particular light, are almost magical. You know, there's you can see it, but you can't touch it. It's the fastest thing. There's this like kind of drama and magic that comes with light in places. So that can almost and the fact that it bounces off of structures, it brings a life to things that we may not have seen as live previously. And I think when we do that, we kind of ask new questions about where I live and what does it mean and what is happening. And I don't know, if there's anything I want to do with my life, it's to encourage more of that kind of wonder and curiosity in people and in the spaces they live.
Well, this leads us directly to the Tobin Bridge, which I think is something that everybody knows. They know it from postcards if they don't live in the region. They know it from passing over it every day or having a glimpse out of the corner of their eye every day. How did you begin to look at the Tobin Bridge as an opportunity for people to think differently?
Well, for myself and my studio mates at Masari, we look at everything as an opportunity to illuminate it. We're always asking that question, and the Tobin Bridge is frankly just begging for it. It's an incredible canvas. As a bridge, it's honest. It doesn't try to disappear. You see the work, and I feel a connection to that. I think a lot of us do here. It's this is a hard working place. So to kind of a bridge that kind of speaks that kind of, literal bridgeness, and it has this rhythm and geometry in it that's just gorgeous to me. And it's a regional asset. It's not something that belongs to one town or city. As you noted, it connects Boston and Chelsea, but it's visible from Somerville to Quincy. And it's an incredible icon. And when things are iconic in that way already, they're already kind of on second base for an artwork. There's a lot going on there already, so let's join it and bring it to life.
Well, describe for me, if you would, what your vision is in Eco Rhythms and how the bridge would be transformed
as it's more than an art project, but at the outset as an art project.
Sure. I mean, I think like what's driving it is that big public art projects like this, they change the way we look at our city and think of ourselves. I mean, we see that with the Embrace. I think that's an incredible example of something that the world talks about and that we talk about and that our kids grow up seeing monuments. You know, what are we building monuments to? And
we should mention the Embrace. You're talking about the Embrace statue at Boston Common, which is the literal embrace of Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King.
Right. I was just there with my boys last weekend, and they're, Papa, it's a hug. I'm like, yeah, it's a statue of a hug. Our city wanted to make a statue of a hug. That's what's up, you know. And we can build a monument to ecology. We can build something that is this kind of compelling and magical for us to reflect on, for our relatives when they come visit to see. And I think that's worth every bit of hustle.
So you would light up the bridge, but this would also be tied to coastal rhythms and the tides. How would this all work? What would it look like?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Well, as I mentioned, the bridge has like this really kind of, you know, substantial structure. So there's a lot up there to light. And it kind of works in our favor. You can bounce light off of it really easily. And we can put direct view lighting, like bar lighting, that traces the geometry of the architecture of the bridge. So there's this reading of the bridge. The way it could be illuminated is really kind of volumetrically, like lighting the truss structure just in a kind of a glow. And then we can have really detailed addressable lighting on the outsides so that you could see it. You know, the drivers wouldn't see that, but that would be for the rest of the world. We could all see that. So I think at its core, it's following the architecture of the bridge, but it's also producing a sense of liveness. And that's where this connection to tides and climate patterns come in. Tides are these, you know, 2 high tides and 2 low tides every day, these big, long rhythms that we can just observe. And that's something that really intrigues me. And the more that we can kind of bring rhythm into this and unify us around ideas of rhythm, the better.
What does rhythm mean in this case? And do the tides, the height of the tides, do they literally correspond to what we would be seeing?
Yes, actually. I think so. The tides are, you know, 2 high tides and 2 low tides a day, and these are things that we're maybe aware of, but not really intimately connected to. And to me, that's an open door into asking questions about how connected are we to our ecological rhythms? How much are we paying attention? We have these like heavily engineered lives where, you know, our proximity to the intimacy of our ecology is just, you know, further and further every day. And we kind of have to actively get back to it. So in this way, the tides will be brought to this scale that kind of says like, we're right here, we're pulsing together. And I believe in that as a way to bring us into, you know, an ecological thinking.
For people who are just tuning in, I'm speaking with Ryan Edwards, our principal at Masari Studios. We're talking about Eco Rhythms, the proposed public artwork for the Tobin Bridge. You've just begun to roll this out. What has the response been so far as you begin to educate people and have conversations with communities about what this would look like? Because this would also change the landscape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I mean, for the past, 3 or 4 years now, I've been having conversations, in many cases one-on-one, with community members, with neighborhood associations, from the street level to the State House, kind of asking, like, does this want to happen? How does this feel? And, of course, the Tobin Bridge has a complicated history with the city of Chelsea and Charlestown, but primarily Chelsea, into the current era.
Because of the destruction that had to happen in certain neighborhoods, and then the way the lead was falling from the bridge.
Correct.
So literally poisoning members of the community, which we've determined over the decades.
Yeah. It's it's iconic, problematic, and it's also Chelsea's, you know, in the way, like, it looms right there. So it was very important to us to do a lot of listening and to kind of find a spiritual center for the project that felt authentic. So we've been having those conversations for a long time.
So I was looking at a Boston Globe piece. You do have your detractors already. There were people saying there are light pollution concerns, that you have to be aware of migration, what this could mean for ocean life too, when suddenly, again, this is a 2-mile span, you add light to that. What does that mean? How do you incorporate those conversations? You're talking about being tied to rhythm and ecology, but making sure you're doing the right thing at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I've had great meetings with the dark sky community and their concerns about light pollution, and actually just today with the Mass Audubon Society as well. I think that, one of the things that we could say is that this is an artist-driven project, and we're finding our way towards it with as much sensitivity and clarity as we can. And that means that there's lots of space for us to tune this project into its most beautiful and meaningful sense. It's not like we have it's this, figure out how to love it. Actually, we're finding ways. I mean, one of the things we were talking about today with the Audubon Society is, what if it was dark for certain periods during bird migration? That's an ecological rhythm. And wouldn't that encourage people to wonder and to think about bird migration in a way that perhaps a project like this didn't?
Which is what you're already trying to do, is to have people tied to
the... So there are opportunities, if we stay really supple in how we find this, to, I think, bring many of these really important conversations together.
What about the energy that would drive this? I know that we've made so many advances. We know we see LED lights all around the city. We have them in our own homes. We know that it uses less. But how could you make this a net zero project?
Mm-hmm. Well, the operational carbon, the electricity to run the project, is one piece of that, and making sure that we're using renewable electricity. And in many cases, and I think with this project, we'll be able to opt into some programs through the electrical grid where most or all of the electricity running it is green, renewable electricity. But we're also interested in a embodied carbon net zero project. So actually observing the carbon that it costs to put the lights on the bridge and in the lights themselves. So a much higher standard of carbon neutrality. We're already auditing that carbon cost, and we'll be offsetting that carbon expense in a very unique, first of its kind, local offset program.
This is so complex, a lot of what we've talked about. And this may not happen. We haven't even gotten to that point yet, because this is, again, a years-long process.
Totally speculative.
What drives you through this?
Oh, my goodness. That's a great question. My wife would wonder the same thing. I'm driven by my two boys. I'm driven by thinking of a sense of identity and where I can make the most impact. I am driven to make the world a better place, and some of the things that I'm called to do, that I've been blessed to have the skills to do, is to rally teams around audacious ideas. And I think that this will have a real impact on how we see ourselves and how the world sees us, and I think that's worth doing. I'm so proud of our city and of our region in the way that we've been distinguishing ourselves, that we're in a world that's wild and in a country that is complicated. There's a lot of things I don't agree with. And I see some leaders here that are actually like helping us find a brand and an idea that I can really believe in. I want to contribute to that.
What have you learned so far as you've continually returned to the theme of having us see ourselves, having Massachusetts understand itself in a different way? What have you learned as you've gone into the science and the ecology and the marine biology of all of this?
That's a great question. Yeah. Well, it's one of the things that drives me is that when I work on a new project like this, I get to learn so much. I get to work with so many incredible people, like the Green Ribbon Commission, Probable Futures, chief among them, Boston Harbor Now, incredible organizations, the Stone Living Lab, people who are working in this every day and who've been generous to kind of bring me in. One of the things that has really fascinated me is climate is these, small changes over great periods of time that add up. And our reality is such that we think in such small slices. And it makes it increasingly difficult to observe, let alone feel, these changes over these large periods of time. And as a drummer, I kind of get that. How can we start to expand the phrasing of our ecological awareness? And that
wait, explain this. How does being a drummer relate to that?
Well, phrases are like like 1 beat, 4 beats, 8 beats, 2 measures, 4 measures, like longer sections of time. And in music, the longer sections of time you can kind of feel and hold and support for the ensemble. You kind of elongate the trance, the depth of the groove or the invitation into the music. That's our job. And it's like climate communicators are also doing that. They're saying like, oh yeah, super hot today. Yeah, but you know what? Over time, this means this. And it's really similar in how drummers and musicians are kind of like, you know, you want to invite you into this bigger sense of time and the awareness that comes with that.
All right, so now what happens next? How much money do you need to raise? Who needs to sign off? What's the bureaucratic work that needs to be done here?
Talk about the things I'm learning, man. that is. I'm only just. Well, we think it's a $10 million project, so nothing to sneeze at. We're raising that money, and we're well on our way. We have some incredible supporters. We have great foundations, both here in Boston and national foundations who we're talking to. So there's a lot of enthusiasm for this project. MassDOT is a partner. They have been holding meetings with us for years now. They're interested in this project. There's incredible new leadership at MassDOT. There's like real sense of possibility. So we're really building that forward, and we're getting the sense of like, this is a win-win. This is a thing we can do. And I'm feeling that from state and from city representatives as well.
And what's the hoped for, I guess, or maybe realistic timeline for it?
Well, I think we can get this done in 2 years. 2028, it'll be up for 10 years to 2038.
And maybe even longer, if the bridge stays up that long.
Well, actually, a part of this is that we want to install it, and we want to responsibly deinstall it. You don't do anything in the built world without thinking about its end of life. And public art rarely thinks that way. You know, it's sexy to get it happening, you know, cut the ribbon. But we actually are dedicated to installing this, maintaining it, and deinstalling it responsibly. That's how you get into that life cycle analysis of something, so that you don't just ignore what you've put into the world. You care for it all the way on.
And more impact with the deinstallation?
What's that?
More impact in terms of having the full appreciation with the deinstallation. You're the first person I've ever heard say something like this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's actually important. You know, so for one, it makes you think about how you install something. You know, how can you do it with the most efficient means? How can you do it with the most renewable or recyclable resources? And then perhaps, you know, a great deal of those lights are still functional. Let's Second Life them. Let's put them on another bridge. Let's donate them to a program. And anything that isn't, let's deconstruct it responsibly, recycle as many of those components, and landfill as little as possible.
Well, Ryan Edwards, congratulations on all you've done so far. We look forward to continuing to hear about this and charting its progress and having these conversations with you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Right on. Thank you, Jared.
Ryan Edwards is a principal at Masari Studios, the Fort Point-based new media collective behind Eco Rhythms, the proposed public artwork that would illuminate the Tobin Bridge in response to tides and other coastal rhythms. The project is still in development with fundraising, engineering, and approvals all in process. You can learn more at ecorhythms.art. Well, coming up, Boston's music history on wheels. How Soundscape, a historical walking tour, is hitching a ride. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund. Proud to support this.
GBH 89.7. GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865. And the Lyric Stage, presenting Something Rotten, a side-splitting mashup of 16th century Shakespeare and 21st century musical theater. Now through June 7th at Lyric Stage Boston. Tickets at lyricstage.com. And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering dynamic short programs tailored for mid-career professionals looking to build expertise in innovation, leadership, and technology. Details at executive.mit.edu.
Coffee, phone, keys, and the news you need. GBH News, with you every step of the day. GBH 89.7, gbhnews.org. And streaming on the GB.
More performances, rank clubs, and history-making moments are part of Soundscape Tours, which traces more than 60 years of local music history, from vanished clubs and record stores to the bands that helped shape Boston's sound. Creator Matt Bowker has been delivering this history on foot, burnishing a boombox and loads of lore. But now he's taking that history on the road with the new Mighty Mighty Bus Tour, a ride through Boston and Cambridge that turns the area's music history into a moving playlist. It launches this weekend. Matt Bowker, welcome to the Culture Show. It's great to have you here. I think we're in store for a lot of music history a lot of people don't know.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
So how did this begin when you began to look around this city, understand what was here, what's no longer here, but what really transformed this city?
Well, I'm not originally from Boston. I moved here in about 2007, and I joined a band, and I always suggest that's the best way to meet people if you are moving into the city. And after playing, for about 20 years in bands and playing all these different venues across town, I became more and more aware of Boston's deep music history, and I wanted to shine a light on that with my tour.
Well, how do you describe it? We talk a lot about the folk history here, especially in Cambridge, and the Bach Center at the Wang Theater. They have the Folk Americana Roots Hall of Fame. But what's the rest of the history that you really think that people should understand?
Well, people, I think, in general are familiar with some of the heavy hitters, like the J. Geils Band or the Cars or Aerosmith, but there are so many other bands, and so many bands and musicians got their start here, and that's the part of history that I think is overlooked that I want to help surface. So the Allman Brothers, that is a great example of a clip. I talk about the Allman Brothers in the context of my tour. When we begin at the Common, I play a snippet of the Allman Brothers on the Common in 1971, performing as part of Boston's Summer Thing, which was this really pioneering summer music festival. And at the end of one of the clips I play, they come on and they say, "We love Boston, we love the J. Geils Band," and we actually had one of our first professional shows at the Boston Tea Party. And the Boston Tea Party is literally, steps from here, and we come basically to Copley Square from the Boston Tea Party on my tour.
So the Boston Tea Party was you're not going that far back in history, but this was a big club.
Oh, this was definitely a big club. It's located at 53 Berkeley Street. There are actually two locations. We visit the other one on my walking tour, but one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this tour was actually take people to the original location of the Boston Tea Party. You can see the building still stands, although it's a 7-Eleven and condos, but if you look up, you can see that there's a giant Star of David, because the structure was a Unitarian meeting house originally when it was designed. And lots of bands made sure to play that venue when they first came over. And the Allman Brothers performed with the Velvet Underground. And one of the best secrets that I get to share people, and I'll share with you, is on the back of the Velvet Underground's second album, White Light, White Heat, you can see the original lineup underneath the marquee of the Tea Party. You see the Y right there?
Yeah.
So that's why I want people to go on my tour, is exactly for that reaction.
Well, what did Boston represent to all of these people? The Velvet Underground, the Allman Brothers, Bruce Springsteen in the early days. We know that they were touring all over the country. Was Boston something special? Was it a benchmark?
I mean, I definitely think the folk revival in the late 50s and early 60s helped spur a lot of musicians like Bonnie Raitt to come out to Boston. But, this is a question that I get all the time. Why is Boston such a great music city? And I think one of the answers is that there's something in the water. And also that it's not a coincidence that we have an innovation trail. There are so many firsts in Boston. And I think that space to create and that space to encourage experimentation sits well with the music, with musicians.
Not only are you toting the records that you just held up, the Velvet Underground, but you have a boombox here on the desk. I mentioned that you burnish this boombox as you're walking around, and we'll get to the bus tour in just a moment that you're launching. But what's the place of music in your tours, the literal place of music in your tours?
Well, at each stop. So one of the nice things about this bus tour is that I don't have to lug everything around like I'm doing right now. I'm sort of a one-man museum, but the bus tour, so at each stops and throughout stops, I'm not driving, so anybody that's interested in going on the tour should just relax, because I won't be driving the bus. But I'll be going around, and at stops at the Tea Party. We're actually basically at a stop right here, just right up the street. There was a venue called Storyville at the foot of the Copley Square Hotel, and the story of Bob Dylan going electric at Newport runs through that club, because essentially in 1953, George Wein and a wealthy patron of the arts from Newport basically hatched the idea for the Newport Jazz Festival, and that was right at that club. And then George Wein leveraged his expertise and all of his connections to start the first jazz festival in 1954.
Well, I want to bring us back to Storyville a little bit. Here's the Charlie Parker Quintet performing the song Groovin' High at Storyville in 1953, broadcast live on WHDH, which airs Storyville performances every Tuesday night.
Last 25 minutes, you've been listening to the Charlie Parker Quintet, direct from George Wein Storyville at the Copley Square Hotel in Boston. Sir Charles Thompson was at the piano, Herb Pomeroy on trumpet, Jimmy Wood bass, Kenny Clark drums, and on alto saxophone, Charlie Parker. Once again, may I remind you that the Charlie Parker Quintet will be here through Sunday night, to be followed by Billie Holiday.
I mean, if only you could time travel. It's just to be in these spaces, those figures who are so iconic now. How does that history come across, especially as you convey it, what these spaces really meant and what those eras were and who was showing up, how they were dressed?
Well, I think what you said is if you could only time travel, I'm doing the next best, or almost the next best thing. I don't know about you, but when you hear music, sometimes that has the ability to transport you back somewhere. And that clip played in the context of looking up at where the marquee of the Storyville Jazz Club used to be. That gives me goosebumps, and I'm hoping that's what the guests on my tour will experience when they're on my tour. And that's just, there's like 10 or 12 stops. That's just basically the third stop.
And you're quick to point out that you're not necessarily an historian, but you think of yourself as somebody who's deeply into anthropology and why this is so important in that regard.
Well, I studied anthropology at college. I've also worked for an educational travel organization for about 20 years, and I wanted to marry my experience in the travel industry with my passion for music, and that's the basis for my tour. But when I go to a new place, I want to go to where the music's at. I mean, that's where the best coffee's going to be. That's where, that's the cool part of town. And I think you can learn so much about a culture through its music. And there's a lot to learn about Boston through the people that were in the bands, the places that they were playing.
If you're just tuning in, I'm speaking with Matt Bowker. He's the founder of Soundscape Tours, and they're launching their new Mighty Mighty Bus Tour, which launches this weekend. So as you say, you won't have to tote everything around. It'll be on the bus with you.
Right.
I assume this also allows you to cover a lot more ground and tell more history.
Yeah, I can show more people more of the city. The walking tour is great. It starts from the Verb Hotel, which has this awesome collection of rock and roll ephemera from the David Bieber archives. In the lobby of the Verb, you can actually see you see a great photo of the Tea Party, but now I get to take people there, and that's what I can really do. It's I think the next step for me for my tour company.
I want to ask you about the Rat. This is a place that's very familiar to a lot of people, and I know from my early days at Emerson College, I think that was just
the end of it,
kind of coming down. But what was the Rat in Boston? This was probably the total opposite of a place like Storyville.
I don't know about the total opposite, but it was, it was definitely it was definitely a dive. It was basically our CBGB's. It was located in Kenmore Square. Basically where the Hotel Commonwealth is, and lots of bands, punk bands, got their start, like the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, or the Cars actually broke out of the Rat, and so did the Pixies. The Pixies performed for the first time with the Thorian Muses at the Rat, so I get to show people the Rat on both the walking tour and on the bus tour.
How did you devise all of this as you were looking at the whole history and what you would cover in the span of history you would cover?
Well, it's taken some time. This is the 6th year of the walking tour for me, and it evolves, daily. And from the people that come on my tour, I get a lot of people on my tour that played the Rat, so they add details like the stage was made of shipping crates, and if you rocked too hard, you would fall through the shipping crates. But I also took music class from Berklee College of Music that was designed by Steve Morse, and that was really informative for me too.
When you talk about, you said at the outset that you're part of a band, and that's one of the best ways to meet people. You also get great anecdotes like, don't rock too hard because you'll fall through the floor.
Yeah.
At the Rat. I don't think I ever recognized that it was just shipping crates. But what is being a musician? What has that brought to you in the network that you would describe that you've been able to create and then convene here for this?
Well, I think it makes me very sensitive to how the narrative is displayed. So there's two big things I have to think about with the tour, like two main concerns. My first concern is, am I hitting the right notes at the right time? Am I talking about all the musicians I want to talk about? I only have 2 hours, and there's so much, Boston music history. And the other big issue that I'm terrified is traffic. I don't know where I'm going to hit traffic, and this is my first tour on Saturday, and hopefully Saturday is better than a weekday, but that's my concern.
And you'll have the music on the bus as well, not just the boombox that you're toting around.
Right. So the trick is that I have curated a lot of these clips, and I have them queued up in order, and I play them, at various points throughout the tour. So I'm trying to make this, Boston doesn't have an official music museum, and this is my attempt to create one.
Is there anything to the rumor that headbanging was born right here in Boston?
I think there is. Well, the rumor of that comes from an NME article given by a member from Led Zeppelin, and it's. I think there's something to the rumor, but I don't think it's probably true. But definitely, people were banging their heads at a Led Zeppelin concert wildly at the Boston Tea Party.
And so, in what time was this?
This is the late '60s, so 69, 68.
And then it just takes off in this age before social media.
Yep.
Why not own it? I mean, we have
Yep.
so much of the rest of the history, and that's a great place for that to happen.
That's right.
Well, any last tidbits that you want to leave us with? Just, you don't want to give all of your tour away, but as people are ready to sign up for the Mighty Mighty Bus Tour or your walking tour, it's great to walk around the city. What are people in for that you want to tease them with?
Well, I would say, get ready to learn some. You're not going to hear all of your favorite bands, but you will definitely learn about some new connections. And the tours are monthly at this point right now, and the next opportunity to book a tour is on Father's Day. And Father's Day is like my Christmas. Those tours always sell out. So. Get your spot soon.
And we appreciate that you're wearing your WBCN T-shirt, having just had Peter Wolf on the show.
I know.
Yesterday.
That was great. If he ever needs another thing to do, I would gladly hire him as a tour guide.
Well, he told me he was hard at work at his noir writing, so maybe it depends. I don't think his hours necessarily align with yours either.
Right.
That was a striking part to me. That man is up all night. Matt Bowker, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Matt Bowker is the founder of Soundscape Tours, which explores Boston's music history through walking tours of the Fenway, and the new Mighty Mighty Bus Tour, which launches this weekend and runs monthly through the summer, tracing more than 60 years of Boston music through clubs, venues, and neighborhoods across Boston and Cambridge. To learn more about the tours, go to the Soundscape Tours website. Coming up, it's commencement season, speaking of Peter Wolf, and because he's getting an honorary doctorate. And MassArt President Mary Grant joins us to talk about this year's graduates, the sanctuary libraries have become, and how a new study reveals participating in the arts slows the aging process. She's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The world takes you outside your borders.
Johannesburg,
Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, Kyiv,
Chiba, Japan. Because what happens there?
When it comes to EVs, Chinese cars eat everyone's lunch.
Affects what happens at home.
The fact that the sides are talking again, that's a positive step.
I'm Marco Werman.
And I'm Carolyn Beeler. Listen each weekday to The World.
This afternoon at 3 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Museum of Science, presenting the Reno Family Foundation Symposium, AI and the Future of Cancer Treatments, on May 28th with Dr. Sophia Shaloub. Registration info at mos.org. And Native Plant Trust, More than 125 years of commitment to protecting New England's native plants. More information about how natives can support the web of life at nativeplanttrust.org. And Middlebury College in Middlebury, Vermont, dedicated to educating thoughtful, ethical, and globally informed leaders in the liberal arts, preparing them to address the world's most challenging problems. More at middlebury.edu.
Your community, your news, your favorite station. It's all on the new GBH News app. Download it today on the App Store and Google Play.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 from the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. It's time for our recurring feature, AI Actual Intelligence, where we tap into the most interesting thinkers in our region because their insights and observations are totally original and algorithm-free. Today I'm joined by Mary Grant, president of Mass Art, who joins us every month. Welcome back. I can't believe you're here. You have commencement tomorrow. Thank you for taking the time out right now to be with us.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm here either. I escaped. Nobody knows where I am. So,
Except for right now.
No, that's right. Oh, my gosh. Everybody knows now. No, it's a really exciting time of year.
Well, I think everybody looks back at graduation, whether you did it yourself, whether you're going to somebody else's graduation. And of course it's spring and there's a gorgeous day. Everything's blooming. What does graduation represent to you?
Hope. It represents hope. So this morning we actually had a graduation brunch for the graduating seniors who tomorrow will walk across the stage at their Leader Bank Pavilion. And I said to the group of students, I said, I want to take a moment and just take you all in. And I want you all to look at one another and know that in this room are your people, the people who are going to be your friends for life, who will be at your weddings, at your christenings, there for you in the big moments and the tough moments. It gives me hope, particularly at the time in the world that we're in. That energy, that possibility is present right there and then, and you can feel it, and it's contagious.
Well, I wonder about that. I was thinking about that this morning. How you would describe that energy, because it's not only the graduates who are just wide-eyed and either terrified or excited, probably all of the above, confused, sad because they're leaving all of these friends they've been with for the last 4 years, and you think that's going to be your community for the rest of your life. And then you have their family who are just cheering them on. It's probably an energy not like anything else.
It's, it really is. I describe it as sort of all your favorite holidays and birthday celebrations rolled into one day. And you get to wear really fancy robes and hats. So it's, there's a great outfit. But for so many students in public higher education, and Mass Art is a public institution, we still have so many first-generation college students. And so for some of these families, it may be the first member of their family ever graduating from college. So it's a huge family celebration because there's so much pride and enthusiasm, and you can feel it. When you look out at that audience, as you have done, and you see those faces of the families who are just so proud, and every student that comes across that stage has a story. There's something that may have happened in their time, in their life, that may have slowed them down, thrown them off course, and those family members know it. And so for them to be there, and some of our students who maybe don't have biological families, they've built their own families over time, they're there loving those students on in that moment too. So and the faculty who have worked, long days, long evenings to get to this point, they have an enormous point of pride and also probably a little worry, like how is this student going to do? And then the staff who work with this. So it really is a joyful spread, because it's not just the graduate, it's that community that's been with the graduate, not just for those 4, 5, 6 years, but to get to that point. So it's a huge moment.
Well, I've been trying to keep this all upbeat because it is such a joyous time, but we do know that these are tough times that these students are graduating into. What is the message to them? How will it be framed by you and the commencement speaker, Sarah Lewis, a great visionary this year, to these students about about the world they have to walk into.
Yeah, I think about this long and hard because I've been doing this for a while now, and there's a part of me going into this year that when I say it's a very challenging time, I want to say, and this time I really mean it, and and then I feel like we should apologize to you, students. So I think it's about lacing that message with the reality, but also the hope and the joy, because it is so important on that day that nobody takes the joy away from those students because they have worked too hard. They can pick those bags up the next day of the challenges of the world, but I think in that moment, so what I always try to do is say, for now, leave what you brought in down and focus on what you're about to accomplish, because the rest of it's going to be there for you tomorrow and the next day. And I happen to believe our students are well prepared for a world that is moving fast. Artists and designers know how to take the long view. They're also extremely creative. They're curious. And my students, this is senior week, for example. The last 2 days, my seniors have still been doing reviews and presentations.
Of course they are.
They have a work ethic. So you combine working hard with the reality that they know it's not going to be handed to them, with the skills of curiosity, creativity, resiliency, the ability to work in groups, the ability to give and receive feedback. So they have those skills. And my students know how to make things, they are. So the world is extremely challenging. It's moving fast. It's an uncertain time, but they're going to shape it, not necessarily be shaped by it. And that's the message too, is that as you move into this world, push for the changes that you want to have. Do not sit back and wait for it to happen.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because you probably heard, I wouldn't expect you to listen because, again, it's a busy week, but we had Peter Wolf on the show yesterday. You're giving him an honorary doctorate tomorrow, along with Abe Morell, the extraordinary photographer, Mass Art, of course, faculty member 2, and Ted Landsmark. I mean, the amazing roster this year.
Yeah.
And I was really struck by what Peter Wolf said, that lean into AI, embrace change. This is what you have to do as a man who has seen many decades of a very successful career in writing and music and communications, all of it, that he still is not afraid of change to any degree. What does it represent as you assemble that roster, what you're showing to the students when you put particular individuals on stage for their honorary doctorates?
I thank you for that question, because it is very particular what we do. So it's about representation as well. Who reflects our students? So when they look at that stage, I want them to see themselves, whether it's gender or race or cultural or life experience. So I want them to feel represented. And then it's pathways. Who are the artists of our time telling the stories? Abe Morell, came here as from Cuba, and he's a renowned photographer, a Guggenheim winner. And his work is magnificent. And so when you look at Abe, you see what you can do with your lens in telling stories over time. Ted Landsmark, who was an extraordinary higher ed administrator, a curator of arts and culture, but is also remembered for some of the work he did during the height of Boston busing crisis. Sarah Lewis, who runs a center on vision and justice and brings together voices at the intersection of arts and culture, civics and democracy. And then Peter Wolf, who's a musician, an artist, a storyteller, and someone who has never given up. And all of these folks up there represent that each of us can make a difference. And we all have tools to bring to the equation: creativity, storytelling, and we have a responsibility to stay in the conversation, to write our stories, whether it's Peter's memoir, or to be leading an institution as Ted has done, or telling stories like Abe or Sarah, who's bringing people together. So it's that dais itself is a symbol to our students of what's possible. And it's joyous. All of these individuals have been down pathways that are extraordinary, and they bring joy and humanity and strength and courage to that moment. And that, too, should be taken out the door with our students, because they're going to need all of that as well.
If people are just tuning in, I'm speaking with Mary Grant, president of Mass Art. Well, all of what you just talked about, it's turning out, is also really good for our health.
Yes, it is.
There's this really, really fascinating study. We've talked about this. I've talked about this with Renee Fleming and others, the understanding that we have about the arts and the body, what it does to us. We know during COVID how doctors who double as musicians were giving musical treatments, literally musical treatments on iPads to patients, knowing that hearing that music was helping them either relax at night or it was doing something physiologically within the body. But now we have this new study out of Britain that it's better than Botox.
That's right.
It's slowing us down.
I canceled my gym membership. I read the story. I said, I'm just canceling. No, it's fascinating. And I think it confirms what those of us who have the privilege to be exposed to arts and culture on a regular basis understand intuitively, but it actually does show that it can slow down the aging process. It can lower your chronological age, not your biological age, not what we look like, but it reduces it more than exercise does, and that's pretty significant. So I actually went in and started reading the study. This is the researcher in me, and one of the things that impacts is inflammation. And we know that inflammation on the body can really do damage. And so slowing down some of the things that cause us to be worked up, that can contribute to aging or significant immune compromise situations. But so I thought it's that brain-body connection too. But I think it's amazing, because to think about what you can do as you age, ways to take care of yourself. Maybe what you do is go for a walk to a museum, and then you can go have an ice cream because you've really nailed it. But I thought it was really exciting, very encouraging, and one more way to lift up the value of arts and culture. And it doesn't have to be in big doses either.
Well, what did the study say about the intake of art? Do you have to practice it? Can it be a more passive experience of just looking when you walk to the museum?
It can be both. It can be a passive experience of going to a museum, going to a library as well. I think it's changing up the environment, but you can be walking into a museum and just spending time looking at your favorite pieces, going to a concert, listening to music, going to a library and maybe sitting quietly reading a book. So it's all of that. And then it is if you're making art, because it focuses the concentration, which slows things down a little bit more, which I think allows things to recover. And doing it just once a week can reduce it something like, I think, 4%. I mean, it was crazy. And I do think we have to be careful, because I could imagine some people saying, great, I don't have to walk or do those other things.
I like your idea of walking to the museum.
Right. I think that's a good one. But so it's both, but I think it contributes to healthy aging, being in community. All of it works together as an ecosystem. But this one was a really interesting one done over time, looking at a pretty good sample size.
Well, I was just about to say that myself. The people, we always hear these studies come out and they're contradicted a few years later, but this one is getting a lot of attention, a lot of people behind it, and thousands of people were studied to make this happen. And it is interesting that it has a greater impact than the actual exercise.
I know. I thought that. I thought, it's like this will be like you don't have to eat your greens and you don't have to exercise. Just go look at art.
I think you can even listen to I was thinking about this. I think you could even listen to the Culture Show.
That's
because
right.
Because it's an encounter with art and talking about art. So I think we're helping too.
Well, I feel like I should be, going backwards like Benjamin Button's, just walking around at an art school campus all day long.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So.
Well, it hasn't worked for me as the host of a Culture Show, but we can hope. We're in a library right now, and there's been some reporting recently, too, about the place of libraries in our communities right now, especially the immigrant community. What are we beginning to understand about the myriad services and purposes of libraries?
Yeah, libraries are such, as you said, we're in one right now. It's such essential places in communities. They're much more, I think, than a third space because of all that they do. And for immigrant communities in particular, if you look around the greater Boston area, cities like Quincy, Chelsea, Newton, Cambridge, Boston, that have really diverse immigrant communities, you can find yourself in those places, particularly at a time where we're trying to erase culture and remove people, actually. But they become safer havens, too. It's a place where you can take your kids. You need to get out of the heat. You can come into a library. But you can also be connected to your home. You can read books, newspapers. You can feel connected with your culture that you may have left, however many long ago. Or if you're a first-gen, young person, you can be connected to a culture that you may not fully understand. So libraries have that very special place of welcoming in everybody. They think about all the ESL programs that are taught out of libraries that help you understand the language better, so you can have social mobility and do better in school and the workforce. They are critically important places for safe spaces to come, to be, to learn about your culture, to build community, to talk with others and learn about others.
What I was interested in thinking about as I was reading about this too is how libraries are shaped.
Yes.
Also shaped by communities,
Yes.
because if you have a very diverse community, of course, they're going to want the stories of their homeland, native languages, so that they can be shared. So there becomes this collaborative building that happens within libraries that I'd never really thought about. It's not just prescribed. These are the bestsellers, so these are the books we're putting on the counters right now.
Well, libraries are one of our democratic strongholds. And I think that they go on citizen power. So there was a piece about, I think it was in Newton, where there was a significant Korean population, and folks actually went around borrowing books from Korean families to bring to the library to help establish a collection. Same thing in New Bedford, where there's a large Portuguese population. Back in the 70s, there was an effort to build a Portuguese library by folks who were working in the fishing community to be connected to their homeland. So I think that there are places where community programs happen. So it's not just here's the great books, here's the smart things you should read, but it's what do we want to know? Story hours, really being able to introduce young kids early to literature and books, particularly at a time where some books are being removed from communities. So they are places where it's not just about what's there when you walk in, but how can you shape it? This summer, again, we'll be offering programs at local libraries around art making, shaped with that particular community, but bringing art into a community. So libraries are so important, and they really are one of the places now that are about bringing us together, equalizing, and if we don't understand our history, you and I have talked about this so much, we're really doomed.
Well, speaking of doomed, there was also information that's come out this week about the number of banned books.
Yes.
And what are we to take of the number of nonfiction books? We often so frequently talk about literature that is banned and characters and stories and themes in fictional accounts, but there's a huge number now of nonfiction books being banned.
Yeah, that's really troubling. I think it was like a third of the books that were banned most recently were nonfiction, and that goes right to trying to look at how we're trying to change history, honestly, by taking books out of circulation that tell us the stories of who came before us, how we got here. I read this great piece where it talked about books being both a mirror and a window. A mirror to understand maybe who you are and a window to open up and understand who else is out there. And if we continue to remove those, it's going to limit that. And also imagine if you're, a young person, if you don't see yourself represented, it's really hard to understand some of the challenges of the folks that came before you. And when we tell just present stories, we don't understand everything it took for us to get to where we are, and therefore it's not as easy to understand when we're losing ground. And so I think that this is a very dangerous precedent. It's happening in some states more than others, and I think that it's going to trying to control education curriculum, what we're reading, what we're thinking. It's not good.
What's interesting is we only have a minute left, but I recently emceed the Literary Lights event that it happens here for the Associates of the Boston Public Library, supports the special collections, and Jodi Picoult was honored this year, and she spoke about being one of the most banned authors in the country, and there was a round of applause, which I didn't quite understand, and then I thought, is it because it's so ill-advised to ban books and to ban authors that it actually gets them more renown, more people want to read them, and therefore more access to their stories?
Well, it could, because when you think about it, when you were a kid, if there was something you really wanted to do, you found a way to do it. And so if there's...
I think we were both the same child.
That's right. I'm just saying. But when you think about something that feels, and something so benign as, a book that is a beautiful classical story should not be banned, and it's going to be talked about. You're going to find it, and it's going to make it feel like you're missing something, or is there something wrong with this? And so I think it's also, we have to keep pushing against this. We need to be keeping a list of these books. We need to be making sure, folks who aren't able to access them can, because these are the stories that we must tell as we continue to write the stories of the future.
And certainly keep talking about it. Well, Mary Grant, thank you so much for being here. And again, maybe we gave you a little reprieve in the middle of all the commencement madness. I know you enjoy it, but yeah, it's a lot, especially for a college president. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And just to all the graduates at all the schools here, congratulations, and we wish you nothing but the best. And the world really needs all of this talent that's being unleashed. And we wish you well, and we love you all very much.
Well, here, I echo all of that. I had that in my script, but I don't have time to read it. You said it better than I would have anyway. Mary Grant, President of MassArt, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jared.
And thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. A reminder that this Friday is our monthly watch party, our recurring movie club revisiting classics and asking you if they still hold up. This Friday, we're going deep on Deep Throat by way of All the President's Men, which turns 50 this year. Tune in for Billy Eichner joining me tomorrow. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Spend your afternoon with us. Stay with us for GBH's All Things Considered at 4 and Marketplace at 6:30. But first, the world, a global view